Welcome to the December 17th, 2024 Disciplinary Petition Committee meeting. My name is Nicole Tebow, and I am the chairperson of the committee today. Before we convene, I would like to remind everyone present that the board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law. Where protection of the public is inconsistent with other interests sought to be promoted, the protection of the public shall be paramount. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we are accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allot 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. We will begin with public comments for individuals attending in person, followed by public comments by individuals participating via WebEx. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting. Before we get started, I would like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions.
This is the moderator. When time comes for public comment, we will display instructions on the screen. You may use the raise hand feature by clicking on the hand icon, or you may use the Q&A feature, which will present a question mark icon. We will open that at the appropriate time. Each speaker, as stated, will have 3 minutes with a 10-second warning, and I believe that is all we need to know for public comment.
Great, thank you so much. I would now like to take a roll call vote to establish a quorum. I believe Jeff Hughes is not here, is that correct? No, Jeff, okay. Jay Newell?
Public member present.
Thank you. Sung Oh?
Licensing member present.
Thank you. Satinder Sandhu?
Licensing members present.
Thank you. Maria Serpa?
Licensing member present.
Thank you, and I am here, so we have a quorum. Can I just comment how weird it is to have President O here not moderating the meeting?
Okay.
Thank you. A quorum of the committee is established. Before we move to the next agenda item, I would like to remind committee members participating via WebEx to please remain visible on camera throughout the open portion of today's meeting. Members, if you need to temporarily turn off your camera due to challenges with internet connectivity, please remember to announce the reason for your non-appearance when you turn off the camera. Now we're going to move to agenda item 2, public comment for items not on the agenda. We will now accept public comment for items not on the agenda. You are not required to identify yourself, but may do so. I would like to remind everyone that the committee cannot take action on these items, except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion, but rather an opportunity for members of the committee and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. We will begin with comment from individuals participating in the Sacramento location. Am I correct in that there's no one in Sacramento at this time?
That's correct.
Perfect. So I'm going to assume that there's no one there going forward. If anyone shows up, if you all can please let me know. Moderator, we are ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone on WebEx would like to make a comment, you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, or you may look for the question mark icon, click that, and then type the word comment into the text box and click send. We do have a couple of requests for comment. Let's see, let's take Tarek M. Haj. I'm going to send you a request to unmute your microphone. And you're unmuted, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. I'm filling in for Michael J. Corey, counsel for Anita McQuigg, who I believe was having trouble earlier with you hearing
Yes.
her. So I just wanted to note that because she is here, but she's not being able to log in and I'm not with her.
Okay, and I do see she's next in the comment line, so thank you very much for updating us.
Yes, of course.
All right, so next is Anita. I will go ahead and send you a request. You should be able to unmute. Okay, Anita, you're unmuted. Can you hear us? Anita, I see that you're logged in 4 times, so that might be complicating your tech issues. I honestly would suggest completely logging out of as many WebEx screens as you have and then logging in 1 time in the future. Other than that, I'm afraid I'm not able to provide technical support since I'm not sitting next to you. And Mr. Haj, if you are able to communicate in some way with her, you are certainly welcome to.
Yes, do you mind if I handle that and we move on and then come back to us later, if that's okay?
Certainly, you are last on the list, so there is business before your case comes up.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Are there any other requests for public comment for items not on the agenda or items for future meetings? And I do not see any further requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment features?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
All right, members, bringing the discussion back to this group, are there any items that you would like to discuss for placement on a future agenda? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to agenda item 3, petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination, or other modification of penalty. As included on the agenda, we will be considering petitions today. I would now like to turn the meeting over to Administrative Law Judge Patrice de Guzman-Hubert to preside over the hearings. And Your Honor, if you could correct me if I pronounced your name wrong, apologies.
Thank you, Dr. Thibault. It's Huber.
Easy enough, thank you.
Madam Chair, did you want to proceed in order as listed on the agenda as far as the cases go?
Yes, please, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we will start with Samira Katami. Ms. Katami, I see you're present. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry, my video is working, but I have to dial in. I can't hear you on the WebEx, so hopefully this works.
Okay, I think it's working so far, and let's hope it continues to do that.
Perfect.
All right, and
Thank you.
I also see Ms. Trauma, the Deputy Attorney General in this case. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. And I do note that Mr. Weinberg, who represents this petitioner, is having trouble logging in. He's contacted me a few times this morning with technical difficulties. He's going to be phoning in.
I see. Okay. In that case, Madam Chair, would it be all right if we move on to the next case to give Ms. Katami's counsel time to log in?
That's okay with me. Board counsel, do we have to vote, or is it okay if we just move on?
Nicole, we can actually move on. However, there is a request for a continuance if you'd like to address that matter first.
Okay, if that's okay, I can go ahead and do that. So members, petitioner Anita Birasel McQuigg, I believe they were last in line, has requested a continuance of their petition hearing. It is my understanding that a motion is required to grant the continuance and to allow the committee to consider the matter at a future meeting. I do not have concerns with the request and I'm comfortable with such action. Members, if you agree, I would entertain a motion and second to grant the request for continuance submitted by petitioner Birasel McQuigg if you believe such an action is appropriate.
So move, Chair Tebow.
Thank you, Sung. Do we have a second?
Yes, hello. Counsel for Anita McQuigg. We did submit the motion yesterday to the OAH, and for reasons stated earlier, the attorney representing Mrs. McQuigg earlier, he's engaged in another hearing this week, a medical board hearing, and that's exactly why we are moving to continue.
Thank you. Board members, do we have a second for the motion?
This September, Nicole, I'll second.
Thank you so much. With a motion and second, I will now open for public comment. As far as I'm aware, we do not have any individuals in Sacramento. So moderator, we are ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
Thank you. This is the moderator. If anyone has a comment on the motion, you may raise your hand by clicking on the hand icon, or you may click on the question mark icon, type the word comment in the text box and click send. Any comments on this motion in the case of Anita Buracil-McQuigg? I do not see any requests for comment. Shall I close the public comment feature?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm now going to bring the discussion back to members. Unless there are any additional comments, I'll proceed with a roll call vote. Okay. Jay, how do you vote? Jay, do you hear us?
I think he's trying to unmute, but he's maybe having. Today's a day of technological issues.
Yes.
Always. Was that you, Jay?
That was a yes. I'm sorry. This is Jay. Yes.
Thank you. You're going to be first all day today on the roll call, so I know you're usually not. Sorry.
That's good.
Sung?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Satinder?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Maria?
Yes.
And I vote yes, the motion passes. I'm going to turn it back over to the administrative law judge to proceed with the next petition. I believe we're going to skip the first one and move to the second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, if I could just turn back to Ms. Buracil-McQuigg's case briefly, so I can call the case and state on the record that it's been continued, if I could do that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are on the record before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, in the matter of the petition for reinstatement of Anita Buracil-McQuigg. The agency case number is 6992, and the OAH case number is 2024120325. Today is December 18th, 2024. The time is 9:13 a.m. This is the date and time set for the hearing in this matter, and we are appearing by video conference. My name is Patrice Huber. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I am sitting with a quorum of this committee. At this time, I'll take the appearances of the parties, starting with Ms. Trauma.
Good morning, Your Honor. Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And for Ms. Buracil-McQuigg.
Good morning, Your Honor. This is Tarek Haj on behalf of Ms. McQuigg.
Thank you both. Now, prior to me calling the case on the record, this committee voted and approved a motion for continuance that was filed by petitioner based on a conflict with her counsel schedule. Is that right, Mr. Haj?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, thank you. The board has approved that motion, and so this case will be continued to a date and time to be determined. Thank you. We are off the record in this matter.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So now I will be moving on to the second case on our list, Mr. Borson.
No, I think it's Katami, Judge Huber.
I think Mr. Weinberg is appearing on my list now. I'm not sure if they're available, so I don't know if we want to stick with Katami or we still want to go forward.
That's completely up to you, Madam Chair. I didn't realize that Mr. Weinberg had shown up. We can move on to the first case on our list.
Let's find out if Mr. Weinberg is able to speak and is available.
Correct. This is the moderator. Mr. Weinberg, if you press *6, you should be able to unmute. And let's try that one more time, Mr. Weinberg, *6. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, since Mr. Weinberg is here and is available, let's just go ahead and keep them in order and go ahead with Ms. Katami.
Thank you, Ms. Tebow. Oh, Dr. Tebow, excuse me. Will you be requiring video feed from Mr. Weinberg? I don't currently see him on my screen.
Let me check in with the board. Mr. Weinberg, you're not available on video, that's correct?
No, I came down with COVID 2 days ago. I'm confined to home, and I don't have the apparatus here to do so. I discussed this with Deputy Attorney General Trauma, and she assured me that as long as the petitioner, Ms. Katami, can Zoom in, and you have her there, that I can represent her by phone.
Perfect. I'm sorry to hear about COVID. Hope you feel better soon. I'm just going to check. I'm just going to check in with the board members. Do you all have any questions or concerns?
We're good, I think.
Okay. Hearing none, I'm fine to move forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, we are on the record before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Samira Katami. The agency case number is 7120, and the OAH case number is 2024-120-569. Today is December 18th, 2024. The time is 9:17 a.m. This is the date and time set for the hearing in this matter, and we are appearing by video conference. My name is Patrice Huber. I'm the Administrative Law Judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I am sitting with a quorum of this committee. At this time, I'll take appearances of the parties, starting with Ms. Trauma.
Good morning, Your Honor. Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
Good morning, Ms. Trauma. And for petitioner?
Good morning, Your Honor. Herbert Weinberg of the Fenton Jerkowitz Law Group, representing the petitioner Samira Katami.
Thank you. And for the record, Mr. Weinberg is appearing by audio only, and Ms. Katami is appearing by video and audio this morning. All right. So, Mr. Weinberg and Ms. Katami, I know typically in a petition where you have the burden to prove that you should get what you're asking for, that party goes first ordinarily. But in this case, I think I will ask Ms. Trauma to present the evidence first, just so I can get a background and context of this case and what has led to this petition. And afterward, you will have an opportunity to present your case. Does that work for you, Mr. Weinberg?
Yes, that's fine, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. And with that, Ms. Trauma, go ahead with your presentation.
Yes, thank you. We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation. The underlying accusation alleged petitioner, while acting as a pharmacist in charge, failed to comply with pharmacy laws when she violated laws regulating controlled substances and dangerous drugs, and or directly or indirectly attempted to violate or assisted in the violation of laws governing the practice of pharmacy. Committed acts of fraud involving moral turpitude, dishonesty, fraud, deceit, committed acts of unprofessional conduct, and inappropriately exercised her education, training, and experience as a pharmacist. The circumstances that led to the accusation were that on October 29th, 2020, a board inspection occurred at petitioner's employer's pharmacy, where she was the pharmacist in charge, or PIC. The inspection revealed that petitioner failed to complete and keep on file self-assessments of the pharmacy's compliance with federal and state law, failed to complete and keep on file the compounding self-assessment, failed to maintain a compounding log documenting quality reviews and required post-compounding process and procedures, failed to maintain written policies and procedures for compounding, failed to maintain a written quality assurance plan designed to monitor and ensure the integrity, potency, quality, and strength of compounded drug preparations, failed to train, evaluate, and assess the ongoing competency of pharmacy staff, and to maintain documentation of compliance. Additionally, petitioner engaged in unprofessional conduct by engaging in fraudulent acts, in that between November of 2018 and October of 2020, she was responsible for filling and billing fraudulent prescriptions for foot bath treatments. The prescriptions were purportedly issued by medical practitioners. However, they did not issue or authorize those prescriptions. Lastly, petitioner failed to maintain a current inventory of manufacture, sale, acquisition, and disposition of dangerous drugs and devices. A 2-year audit revealed substantial overages of drugs, indicating that the pharmacy had dispensed more drugs than had been purchased. Effective November 2nd, 2022, Petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked, the revocation stayed, and she was placed on probation for 3 years, subject to the terms and conditions in the decision. To date, petitioner has been compliant with quarterly reporting to the board, payment of all costs in the amount of $10,000, payments for probation monitoring, community service, remedial education, and completion of the ethics course. She has now filed a petition for early termination of probation, and included in that petition packet are 6 letters of recommendation, and all 6 were verified by board staff. She also submitted continuing education certificates as well as a personal statement to the board. Exhibit 1 is the petition packet. It includes all of the documents I just described that were attached to her packet, as well as the notice of hearing, the license history certification, the memorandum to the board, and the underlying decision and order. The board members and the petitioner have been provided with a copy of the same set of exhibits, and that petition packet has been filed with OAH. The entire packet is Bates labeled AGO 001 through AGO 63. At this time, we would like to request that that be marked as Exhibit 1 and admitted into evidence.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. It is so marked. Mr. Weinberg, any objection to Exhibit 1?
None, Your Honor.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's now petitioner's opportunity to address the board.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. Mr. Weinberg, how would you like to proceed?
Well, it is not our purpose here to argue the merits of the case. I'd like to just simply introduce and have the petitioner testify very briefly as to why she has actually filed the petition.
All right. Dr. Katami, excuse me for mistitling you earlier. Let me swear you in so I can consider what you say as testimony. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please put your hand down and state and spell your full name.
Samira Katami, SAMIRA KHATAMI.
Thank you. Mr. Weinberg, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Samira.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. Briefly, to begin with, do you acknowledge your complete responsibility for the violations alleged in the accusation?
I do, yes. I take full responsibility, and I acknowledge everything that was said, yes.
Secondly, according to the documents submitted to the court by Deputy Attorney General Trauma, you are and have been fully compliant with all requirements, set forth in the board's disciplinary orders. So why is it important to you to now terminate the final year of your probation?
It's important to me. I'm asking to be put on a non-restricted license, and it's important to me because I have 2 teenagers. I would like to support my family more than what I have been able to do. The last 2+ years, through a lot of self-reflection, through the professional boundaries course, through the corresponding responsibility CEs, have really enlightened me, taught me after this was my first time being a PIC, and just the vulnerabilities of a pharmacist, and it's, again, self-reflection. It's enlightened me how to be, have stronger boundaries as a pharmacist.
So then do you feel that you're now better able to fully act as a unsupervised pharmacist, based upon basically what you've learned during this 2-year period. Do you feel you're competent now to have your practice unrestricted?
Yes, absolutely.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Trauma, any questions?
Yes. In your own words, can you explain to us why you are on probation?
I am on probation for failing to be accurate on pharmacy operations as a PIC.
Now, you had quite a few compounding violations that led to your discipline. What sort of compounding were you doing at that time?
So at that time, we were not doing compounding. We had stopped doing compounding a couple of years before, but I did not realize that you, as a compounding pharmacy, you still need to keep all of your files up to date, regardless whether you're doing a lot of compounding or one compounding. So I think I just thought, oh, we're not doing that much. I don't need to keep up with policies and procedures, but I do. Everything needs to be kept up to date, regardless whether we're doing them or not.
Okay, so were you just doing a small amount of compounding, or were you not compounding at all at that time?
Almost, I could say, not compounding at all.
Okay. And with regard to those compounding laws and regulations, were you familiar with those at the time?
I was, yes.
And in your current practice, are you still compounding?
No.
When is the last time that you engaged in any kind of compounding?
Oh, so I think in the beginning they were saying it was in 2020 when the Board of Pharmacy came in and they looked at records from 2018 to 2020. I want to say it was sometime back in 2018.
Okay. And why haven't you engaged in any kind of compounding since being put on probation?
Honestly, I haven't been at a place to do a compounding pharmacy, and I'm not really sure it's something I want to go back into.
Okay. It appears from the education certificates that you've submitted that you have had some education and training in the area of compounding since your discipline that was imposed in 2022. What sort of education or training have you had in that area?
I've had a lot of, the compounding laws are changing. They change all the time. They've gotten a lot stricter. So some of the CEs that I've taken have just been basically how to better keep up with policies and procedures, how to have a cleaner pharmacy, what to look for when, how to be ready for a board inspection, you know, some of the CEs that I have done.
And you don't think that you'll go back into compounding?
I don't think so.
And why is that?
I just think it's, if I did, it would be as a staff pharmacist, not as a PIC. Just to, I wouldn't want to risk doing anything incorrectly. Put myself at, I don't want to put myself at any vulnerability. Because I just think there's so many restrictions that need to be followed. And I personally don't think I would do it, bring it upon myself again if I was to be a PIC.
I see. There were also charges in the accusation regarding billing for prescriptions that weren't issued regarding foot baths. How do you explain that?
We had prescriptions for foot baths that were written by physicians. At that time, we had started getting into telemedicine. And I believe when the board contacted there was something wrong with the numbers that they received versus what our records were. And that's really it. There was record keeping issues.
Okay. And what about the overages? Is that also record keeping issues?
The overages were, our books were aligned. I'm not sure what maybe someone didn't get back with our 2 years of inventory. But as to my records, I mean, when we counted everything was aligned. Again, I don't know if there was we worked with a lot of vendors back then. If there was a vendor that did not get back to the board with our supply order.
Okay. Was this your first time being a pharmacist in charge of a pharmacy?
Yes.
Do you feel like, looking back on it, do you feel like you were ready to be a pharmacist in charge?
No, I think I was licensed 17 years ago, and I think maybe we don't learn enough in pharmacy school about really, what you're putting yourself at when you're a PIC. I didn't realize what was coming for me, and that basically we are responsible for everything that happens, regardless if it's us or if it's a technician or anybody in the pharmacy. It falls on the PIC. It's a huge responsibility, and I don't think I realized that. I think the board now is requiring PICs to take the course, which I think is great.
Do you feel like that's something you've learned from the accusation in this case?
Yes. The professional boundaries course that I took, the professional boundaries course that I took, pharmacy ethics, that was very eye-opening.
What did you learn from ethics?
We are vulnerable at every stage, from what your technicians do. If your technician checks in a medication, the PIC is responsible. Even with patients, we form a relationship with them. And I learned, that's not even something that should be done. Just the vulnerabilities that we are at and how vigilant we have to be. Really strong boundaries is what's needed to be a PIC.
Are you currently working as a pharmacist?
I am working as a pharmacist at Orinda RX and Medical. It's a DME.
And what sort of work do you do?
So it's my own business, and it's a DME business. I get prescriptions for diabetes medications, and we're licensed through the state.
Okay, your license is that through CDPH or another entity?
I think that's what it is. I can't think of the entity right now, but it's through the state that licenses DMEs.
Okay, but not the Board of Pharmacy.
No, not the Board of Pharmacy.
Okay, and so this is a medical device business?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm sorry, what kind of devices did you say you're selling?
We do a lot of diabetes medications, which falls through the, prescriptions, why a pharmacist is required. We do a lot of CPAP, orthotics. We do cold therapy, DVT, patients that come out of surgery before and after.
And are you the only pharmacist that works at that business?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no like supervising pharmacists overseeing your work?
No.
Okay.
No.
And when did you acquire ownership of this business?
This was in 2020.
Okay. And then do you have any employees that work under you?
I don't. It's just me.
Okay. And would you say that this business is your primary source of work?
Yes.
And approximately how many hours a week are you working there?
Approximately 80 hours a week.
Okay. And then I also noticed from your petition packet that you do volunteer work with Ashland. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
What is Ashland?
So Ashland is a free medical clinic in San Lorenzo. We are open 2 Saturdays a month, and it's basically for uninsured, underprivileged patients.
And what sort of work do you do at Ashland?
So I am the pharmacist. I am the person that they come to with any questions. A lot of cost helping to the patients, I guess I should say. If there's a prescription for Januvia or Jardiance or Brio, I help them with the patient assistance programs that these medications offer, get them approved, or if there's some way that we could, move a patient's prescription from Walgreens to Costco, because Costco will be cheaper. Again, they're very underprivileged patients. So that's where they use me the most, is just helping to get the best cost effective way for the patients.
And is there a pharmacy at that clinic as well?
No, there's no pharmacy at the clinic.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. You said no?
No, there's no pharmacy at the clinic.
Got it. Okay. One of the authors of the letters, the medical director at Ashland, described your work as like a consultant pharmacist. Would that be an accurate statement?
I think he meant consultant in terms of they asked me questions. We refer to each other back and forth in regards to medication costs, side effects, drug interactions.
Okay. You're not an employee of that company though, correct?
No, it's a free clinic. Everyone there is a volunteer. The doctors, we have a lot of medical students that come through before they're applying to medical school.
Okay. Is there another pharmacist that is supervising you in that position, or are you working independently?
I am independently.
Okay. So at this time, would it be safe to say that you're not working in an actual pharmacy setting?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you had indicated in your testimony that you thought that getting off probation, I think you said something to the effect of it would open up some more doors and help you support your family. What sort of plans do you have if the board grants your license?
I have plans on going back to an actual pharmacy and just being a fully reinstated pharmacist without any restrictions.
Is there a reason why you can't go back to a pharmacy at this point while on probation?
A lot of the I guess a lot of the job openings that I see, they either require you, they want you to be a PIC, non-restricted.
Okay. Have you applied for any positions at pharmacies and been rejected because of your probationary status?
I have, yes.
Okay. How many have you been rejected from because of your probationary status?
I really don't know right now. Quite a few, I would say.
Okay. Do you have any plans to own a pharmacy if you get off probation?
No, I do not.
What about becoming a pharmacist in charge again?
I think I could be a pharmacist in charge with the knowledge that I have now. Yes.
Okay. How, if at all, has the board's probationary program made you a better pharmacist?
Again, it's really enlightened me on the role of a pharmacist and what we do and how important it is to be on top of everything, whether it's documents, whether it's medication, record keeping, whether it's training your staff. I think it's something, again, being a pharmacist for 17 years, we forget what we're supposed to do. We forget what our duty is. I shouldn't say we, I. And I think I have learned through these 2 years and through all the courses and through self-reflection of really what my role is as a pharmacist.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. Let me ask the board committee members if they have any questions. They'll start with you, Madam Chair. Dr. Tebow, any questions?
I'd actually like to go last, if that's okay, so we can go through the other members first. Thank you.
Mr. Newell?
I vote no.
Oh, we're not voting yet, Jay.
Oh,
just
my
if you have
bad.
any-
So,
if you have any
so
questions.
no,
for
as
the
of right,
petitioner.
I do have a question actually. When we initially started, you were asked a question about whether you took full responsibility, or your representative mentioned that you were taking full responsibility, and then you repeated that. And then later on in the conversation, when it came to the foot bath, the comment was something went wrong with the numbers, but there was no level of quality assurance or review of quality assurance to figure out what went wrong with the numbers or where the problem was. And then there were a couple of other things that kind of had similar sentiments. It was like, well, I don't know what happened, but something happened. Someone didn't get back to someone else. And something in there feels like if you're assuming full responsibility, then you either do know or you're saying, no, this is on me. But it's difficult for me to hear you say you do know, but at the same time, this is not on me. This is just a numbers thing that someone else did. Can you explain that to me?
I do take full responsibility for everything that happened. I was the PIC. I should have been more, again, on top of the numbers and making sure that everything was correct, and I didn't. And yes, I mean, as the PIC, I take full responsibility of what happened. It was my responsibility. It was my role, nobody else's. And you know, that's really, if I could go back, I would change it.
Any other questions, Mr. Newell?
With regard to the overages, you said your books were aligned. And you said it's then on the vendors who didn't get back to the board. Does that sound like what you recall?
That's what I recall, yes.
Okay. Okay, that was it.
Thank
I
you.
think of maybe 18 to 20 vendors back then.
All right, Dr. O, any questions?
I do. I have quite a few, so bear with me, Dr. Katami. Thanks for coming.
Sure.
So can you just first, starting with, I know the ACT Trauma has asked some questions I have, but in terms of your probation work requirement, you are required to work as a pharmacist in California for 80 hours a month. I'm a little confused. So are you not working as a pharmacist at current capacity?
So I'm working as a pharmacist, not in a pharmacy setting, though.
Okay, and that's clear by our probation team that those hours are being counted currently.
Yes, yes. I have my my person that comes in every few months and visits me there.
Okay, but do you actually work in a capacity? What got you to the point, such as you're somewhat of a concerning operational standards and your functions as a PIC? Those are the functions that led to your current probation. And the reason for the probation is so that you can demonstrate of your practice as a pharmacist that got you there, so that you can work as a pharmacist in functions where you can demonstrate, right? So have you, I think I need a little more elaboration on why you are not able to work as a pharmacist, and just kind of circumstances surrounding it. I know that Nicole Trauma had asked you, but can you just elaborate what kind of efforts have you put into finding a job as a pharmacist, or even volunteering as a pharmacist? Because I know that unfortunately, yes, we understand the circumstances where, they may not pay you or that they may not employ you, but we have pharmacists on probation who literally volunteers so that they can, demonstrate they can work as a pharmacist. Can you just kind of elaborate on that circumstance?
Sure. So, sorry, were you referring at the clinic if I'm a pharmacist?
No, just the pharmacist in general. I'm a little bit concerned of your current practice as a pharmacist, dispensing just the durable medical equipment. I just don't know if that really is hours that would demonstrate your rehabilitative efforts since the probation was put on.
So in 2020, we closed the last pharmacy that I was a PIC at closed. One of the partners retired. I opened my own DME / I was going to make it a pharmacy. And I started the DME process. And because we're licensed with Medicare and we take diabetes medications, we take prescriptions, a pharmacist has to be on board. A licensed pharmacist has to be on board. And so I am the licensed pharmacist. I am the owner of the company. I submitted an application to the board for a pharmacy, and that's when I got a letter in regards to the prior PIC position that I was at. So yes, I am there. I take prescriptions. It's a DME, but because we're licensed with Medicare and we do prescriptions, they need a pharmacist.
And this business, Dr. Katami, is successful to a point where you can have financial stability, but you still would like to have probation lifted. Can you describe what is the motivation behind it? I'm kind of like a little, like, if this business is successful, what is the motivation for you to get off the probation?
I would like to, again, whether it's part-time or full-time, go back as a consultant pharmacist or a PIC pharmacist, just in order to have more income. Again, my goal was to, start my own pharmacy / DME, and it's just been the DME now. And after these 2 years, I'm again would like to just go back as either a consultant or a PIC.
Have you applied to jobs that just as working as a pharmacist?
As a regular pharmacist,
Mm-hmm.
I had in the beginning, yes.
Okay. How many, and were you not successful in securing any jobs?
I was not successful, no.
How many jobs have you applied?
20, 30.
Okay. And you are stating for the record that you do not intend to own a pharmacy despite your current circumstances.
After everything that happened, no. When I applied for a pharmacy, I hadn't heard anything from the board. None of this had happened.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me,
Dr.
Your Honor,
Sandhu?
may I intercede here? Your Honor, may I intercede here for a moment?
Yes, Mr. Weinberg.
Okay, with regard to Ms. Katami's employment, the disciplinary order defines employment, and it says it includes any position for which a pharmacist is required. So Ms. Katami's work in the setting of the DME certainly complies with that, because
All right,
the pharmacist
Mr. Weinberg.
is required.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. That sounds like argument, and you may save that for when it's time for closing argument.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sandhu, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. I have just a few follow-ups. Most of the questions been asked that I wanted to ask. Dr. Samira, thank you for coming and answering all of our questions. I know you, the reason for you described was that you have a family to support and you'd like to be more employed. And I want to go back to what Dr. O had mentioned. Have you applied at what kind of pharmacies that you applied? When you said you applied for 20 jobs, 15 or 20 jobs, what kind of settings were you applying at?
I've applied to CVS, prior authorization, pharmacist, clinical, or even just regular pharmacist. Anything from CVS, there's been United Healthcare, Walgreens.
So you said you'd taken courses, and looking at the discipline that you were issued, it was mostly there were a lot of compounding allegations, and then there was an inventory overages. So beside that, how could you make us, or we feel that you are learned in a practical sense what goes on day to day that you would be required to do, and you'd be able to apply some of the things that can you elaborate how, from education, how you put that in practice? Because one of the requirements is if you plan on going into that kind of a setting, you would have to, able to keep record keeping, all those. How could we be sure that you have learned that?
I think what I have learned is just to be more precise and more accurate, more on top of it, more prepared with record keeping, with everything that has to do with a pharmacist, whether it's a PIC. And I guess record keeping is the main important thing. the every 2 years filling out the pharmacy forms, and whether it's compounding, and just making sure policies and procedures is everything is up to date.
The last question I have is you mentioned that you would, when you go back, you would be applying for pharmacy pick positions or staff positions, any of those things. Again, can you say what kind of setting you plan to go back to?
I think I would, there are pick positions. I would apply to a staff position or a pick position. I think I'm capable to being in a pharmacy setting, whichever position it would be.
Okay. Last question I have is that you said that DME locations, you take some prescriptions. Do you dispense them at location, or
Yes.
you said so you fill prescriptions at this location? Is this licensed?
We do. We fill
Drugs?
diabetes prescriptions. So again, going back to, I guess they asked if it's not a per se pharmacy setting, but yes, we do fill prescriptions for diabetes medications that require a prescription.
And you order drugs at this locations, and is it like,
yes.
But it's not licensed pharmacy?
No.
Yeah.
No. It's just what's allowed through the Medicare, which is mainly diabetes medications.
Okay. All I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Serpa, any questions? I see your lips moving, but you are muted.
Sorry about that. I was trying to read another page and I neglected to click the unmute. I'm sorry. Dr. Kotami, thank you very much. I was actually looking at your disciplinary order document, which you are probably very familiar with, and it states that you are supplying quarterly reports to the board. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in the quarterly report, you indicate the information about your employer. Who are you listing as your employer and your direct supervisor in these reports?
My place of employment, Orinda RX and Medical, and I have my name listed.
So you're supervising yourself?
Yes, or I don't know if I leave it empty or if I put myself. Yes.
I think that you've actually, you can hear from some of the board questions that this is a unique situation. So it's kind of stumped us as to how that's possible. I'm sure that'll be another discussion. But you submit the quarterly reports to the board, they're reviewed. You also mentioned that someone comes into your workplace. Who, not that you don't have to give us the name, but what kind of a person comes in? Is it a board person or is it a hired consultant, or who comes to visit you?
No, the board. It's the probation officer.
Okay,
yeah.
That's fine.
From the board.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Just to follow up on Dr. Sandhu's questions about the diabetic medications, can you give us a list of what you're talking about? I mean, I'm sure you, in addition to testing supplies, what do you mean by medications?
So the diabetes meters and the Part B medications fall into pharmacy, and that's where they require pharmacists to be on staff at a DME.
So, but can you give me a list of what you mean by medications specifically? Don't I don't need to know the testing supplies, but other than testing supplies.
It's mainly the testing supplies.
So you're talking about supplies and not necessarily oral or injectable medications.
No, it's CGM supplies mainly. Libre, Freestyle.
I think that's helpful because you implied that you were dispensing medications, and that confused us also.
Okay.
So you are talking about supplies and equipment.
Yes.
Okay. I think that answers all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Thibault, any questions?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Katami, for being here today. We know this is tricky. I think the rest of the committee has asked most of my questions, but I just wanted to ask, a few of our committee members are not pharmacists. So could you, just for their benefit, explain what DME is? I just want to make sure that they're clear on what you're talking about.
Sure, absolutely. DME is durable medical equipment. We are licensed by the state. We have an HDME license. We are licensed by Medicare because, again, I won't call it medications, but when we run supplies through Medicare, they do require a prescription. They do need a pharmacist on staff. And we do anything from the diabetes. I do a lot of cold therapy units, DVT, devices for patients that are in surgery or just coming out of surgery. It's basically an HDME license.
Great, thank you so much. That was the only question I had today. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Weinberg, any redirect?
No, I'll save my comments for my closing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, let me just check. Any other evidence, Mr. Weinberg, that you'd like to bring?
No, nothing, Your Honor.
All right. Do you rest?
Yes.
Okay. So that does take us to argument. I'll start with Ms. Trauma. Go ahead with any closing argument you'd like to make, and then we'll end with you, Mr. Weinberg.
Yes, just briefly. Petitioner has been compliant with the terms and conditions of her probation thus far, has served 2 of the 3 years imposed. It is her burden to show that she is rehabilitated and that there is no more need for probationary supervision. I will note that she has had little oversight in her pharmacy practice. Her work as a pharmacist is not that of a typical full-time pharmacist working under the supervision of a pharmacist in charge in a pharmacy setting. Her primary work appears to be her durable medical equipment business, which she oversees and works independently, and that is not regulated by the Board of Pharmacy. So that, combined with the fact that she had stopped compounding roughly in 2018, makes it difficult for the board to actually determine competency in compounding and whether she can perform the functions and duties of a pharmacist in a pharmacy setting in compliance with the law. And that is particularly true given her testimony that she does want to return to being a pharmacist in charge soon. So accordingly, at this time, the people can't recommend this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weinberg, go ahead.
Yes, there's a phone ringing, so I hope this doesn't interfere. First of all, thank you for affording us the opportunity to have this petition heard. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. Thank you, because my phone is ringing and I'm ignoring it. Look, the Board of Pharmacy's mandate is to protect the public from the practice of pharmacy that is not practiced properly. But there is no mandate necessarily to be overly punitive. As Deputy Attorney General Trauma said, in her statement that was issued, her written statement that was issued. It may be AGO 2 or 3 or 4 or something of that nature. That Ms. Katami has complied with all the requirements that have been set forth in the disciplinary order. We've now run afoul of interpretations of words, such as consultant, such as employment as a pharmacist. The board, now a distinction has suddenly been raised that employment should mean employment in a general pharmacy setting, even though the document, the stipulated settlement, defines employment as any position for which a pharmacist is required. Ms. Katami chose that definition of employment. She should not be punished for choosing the definition of employment which was provided to her by the board itself. Secondly, with consultant, the word consultant. A pharmacist is a consultant when the pharmacist consults a patient. Or a pharmacist is a consultant, of course, she's prohibited by the order to be a consultant. I believe that refers to a consultant, for instance, in a long-term care facility, which requires the hiring of a consultant. So the fact that in a letter somebody stated that she's a consultant doesn't mean that she's violated that restriction set forth in the stipulated settlement. I recognize that Ms. Trauma is concerned and is not recommending the board's granting of this petition. I know how difficult it is, based on my 40 years of practice in the healthcare and in the healthcare arena, and working with the Board of Pharmacy, how difficult it is for a pharmacist, number one, to get a job with the chains, and number two, to get a job anywhere where the owner is concerned that when the board's inspector comes in to see how their disciplined employee is doing, they look at the entire store. They don't want the Board of Pharmacy there. So I see that with patients, with clients all the time. I urge the board to consider all of these things and to adopt. Your Honor, to adopt. Well, the board will adopt, but Your Honor, to in your advisory opinion, to opine the granting of this petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Ms. Trauma, Mr. Weinberg, is the matter submitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you. With the matter being submitted, the record is closed, and the board will convene in closed session to discuss this matter. Dr. Katami, you will receive the board's decision in a few months. It won't be today. Thank you so much. With that, we are off the record in this matter. All right, Dr. Tebow, should we move on to the next case in line?
Let me just check in with my committee members really quick. How are you all feeling? Are you good to go for one more before we break, or is anyone desperate for a break? All right.
Good to go.
Okay, great. And can I take this opportunity really quick? Jay, is today your first petition hearing?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, I didn't realize that. So we will go into closed session after this, at which time we will vote. So
Yeah, so no more shouting, I vote no.
Keep track. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry. I would have told you. I didn't realize it was your first one. My apologies.
Oh, no, you shouldn't have to tell me. I should have waited a little bit. But when you said I was first, I was like, oh, all right, this is how I feel. So, okay.
I know with a name starting with N, you're usually like halfway through the order. Right. Today we're just a little stacked at the end of the alphabet. Thank you, Judge Huber. We're ready to move on to the next one.
Thank you. And if I just may take this moment to speak to Ms. Trauma. Ms. Trauma, would you mind maybe turning off and on your video? It's blurry on my end. I don't know if that's how it appears to everybody else. So it's a little unfocused and hard to look at.
Does that help it?
It's the same. So maybe it's just an issue. That's fine. Thank you for trying. All right. Now, I do see Dr. Serpa is not on video. Dr. Tebow, did you want to wait until she returns on screen?
Let me check. Maria, are you having technical difficulties?
She's reconnecting right now, Nicole.
Got it. Okay, we'll give her a moment.
Thank you.
While we are doing that, can we make sure our next petitioner is all connected? I see him.
Yes, Dr. Borson, we don't see your video feed. There you are. Thank you.
Good morning.
All right, so we'll just give Dr. Serpa a few moments to reconnect.
A quick question for board council. While we're waiting for Maria to connect, could we do like a 5-minute break and do our 15 after the next one, or does a break have to be 15 minutes?
You can do a 5-minute break, but after 3 hours, you must do a 15-minute break.
Okay, so board members, let's do like a 5-minute bio break and just give Maria time to log in, so we're not all just sitting here looking at each other.
Good. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, thanks.
So return at 10:18.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. It's 10:18. If we can all come back. Maria, I see you. Were you able to get connected?
Yes, I apologize. I also needed to announce that I did hear the prior case the entirety, and it was only after the judge says that we were off the record. My computer completely rebooted, so I apologize for the delay.
Thank you, Maria. And before I turn it back to you, Judge Huber, I just need to take a roll call vote. Jay Newell.
Present.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Present.
Satinder Sandhu.
Present.
Maria Serpa.
Present.
And I am here. Quorum has been established. Back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, Dr. Borson, I see you're here. Are you representing yourself in this hearing today?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And I just want to confirm you are aware you could have retained an attorney at your own expense. Did you know that?
Yes.
Okay. And you have chosen to represent yourself.
Correct.
Thank you. All right. We are on the record before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Sheldon Dale Borson Jr. The agency case number is 3349 and the OAH case number is 2024120332. Today is December 18th, 2024. The time is 10:20 a.m. This is the date and time set for the hearing in this matter, and we are appearing by video conference. My name is Patrice Huber. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I am sitting with a quorum of this committee. At this time, I'll take the appearances of the parties, starting with Ms. Trauma.
Good morning. Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. And Dr. Borson, I know we chatted briefly before I called it on the record, but would you please introduce yourself now?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sheldon Borson, pharmacist. Been a pharmacist for 32 years and in appearing here asking for early termination.
Thank you. And we discussed it also before I called the case on the record, but just to confirm, Dr. Borson, you are aware that you could have retained an attorney at your own expense and you are choosing to represent yourself today. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. So in a case like this, where it's your petition, that means that you have the burden to prove that you are entitled to whatever it is that you are seeking. And ordinarily in a court proceeding, the person or the party with the burden goes first in presenting the evidence. But in this case, I think I'm going to ask Ms. Trauma to present her evidence first, and that is to help me and the committee get an understanding of the background and the context of your licensure and what has led to you filing this petition now. When Ms. Trauma is done with her presentation, Dr. Borson, you'll have an opportunity to make your own presentation. If you would like to testify and speak to us directly, that would be the opportunity to do that. If you have any additional documents, that would also be the time to do that. But for now, you're going to have to hang tight while Ms. Trauma goes first. Does that work for you, Dr. Borson?
I understand, and I understand it's a lengthy explanation and accusations.
Thank you. All right, with that, Ms. Trauma, go ahead.
Good morning. We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation. The underlying accusation includes conduct that reaches back to 2007 and goes to 2011 and involves two separate pharmacies. I'll summarize the charges and the accusation first, and then I'll go into the discipline and then what was provided in the petition packet. So the first cause for discipline in the accusation was moral turpitude, fraud, deceit, or corruption because petitioner diverted controlled substances from his pharmacy employer in March and April of 2007. Petitioner was the pharmacist in charge, or PIC, at an Albertsons when loss prevention determined that over $150,000 of product involving more than 137 different dangerous drugs and controlled substances were missing. Petitioner was observed leaving the pharmacy for long periods of time, meeting people in the parking lot, handing items that appeared to be drug bottles, talking to people who pulled up in vehicles and getting into different vehicles for several minutes at a time. Several times, petitioner was observed leaving the pharmacy with small bags like medication bags and returning to the pharmacy without those bags. The second and third causes for discipline were providing prescription medications to another without a prescription, as petitioner admitted to taking prescription medications for himself without paying for them and without a prescription, as well as providing 20 tablets of Subutex without a prescription and without paying for them to his fiancée. The fourth cause was diversion of controlled substances from Albertsons, as I just discussed the circumstances. For the next few causes for discipline, we moved to 2008 to 2009, when petitioner was the pharmacist in charge at a Costco pharmacy. The fifth cause for discipline was furnishing clearly excessive amounts of controlled substances to himself without a valid prescription. He filled and dispensed and verified his own prescriptions for Provigil. The sixth cause for discipline was possessing controlled substances and dangerous drugs without a legitimate prescription, as I just described. The seventh cause for discipline was self-administration of controlled substances and dangerous drugs, as I just described. The eighth cause for discipline was knowingly violating Business and Professions Code 4022 and 4059, regulating controlled substances and dangerous drugs. The ninth cause for discipline was fraudulently obtaining the controlled substance Provigil. The 10th cause was for failing to maintain the pharmacy in an appropriate state of cleanliness. For the next few causes for discipline, we moved to 2010 through 2011, while petitioner was still the PIC at Costco. The 11th cause for discipline was moral turpitude, dishonesty, fraud, deceit, for prematurely refilling controlled substance prescriptions for a patient, KB. The 12th cause was providing prescription medications to another without a prescription, as I just described. More than 10,000 doses of a controlled substance were missing, and an audit conducted during this time period with a total loss of more than $25,000. The 13th cause was furnishing controlled substances without a valid prescription. The 14th cause was furnishing clearly excessive amounts of controlled substances. The 15th cause was discipline was failing to maintain an accurate inventory records of controlled substances and dangerous drugs. And then the last cause for discipline was not having effective controls against theft in the pharmacy, deviating from the requirements of a prescription. Effective October 28, 2013, petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked, the revocation stayed, and the license was placed on probation for 9 years, subject to the terms and conditions in the decision. Now, petitioner's probation should have terminated in 2022. However, as a condition of completing probation, he is required to pay all costs. Of the nearly $50,000 that was ordered, he has a remaining balance of $26,038.60. To date, petitioner has been compliant with quarterly reporting to the board. He's been making monthly payments towards his costs between $100 to $300 a month. He has been compliant with his payments for probation monitoring. He's been meeting the work requirement. He participated in and completed the pharmacist recovery program. He participated in random drug screening. He completed 250 hours of community service. He met the supervision requirements. He met the prescription coordination and monitoring terms, and he completed the ethics course. Petitioner has now filed a petition for early termination of probation, and included in that petition are 4 letters of recommendation. All 4 letters were verified by board staff. He also submitted continuing education certificates, and he provided letters from addiction medical specialist and professional health services. Exhibit 1 is the petition packet. It includes the documents I just described, which were attached to his packet, his petition, as well as the notice of hearing, the license history certification, the memorandum to the board, and the underlying decision and order. The board members and petitioner have been provided with the same set of exhibits, and the redacted petition was filed with the Office of Administrative Hearings. The entire packet is Bates labeled AGO 001 through AGO 97. I do note, for your honor, that there are a few pages in the petition packet where it may be appropriate to seal those from the public record. At AGO 16 through 17 appears to be a medical report, and then at AGO 18 to 20 appears to be recovery group progress records. So I would request that Exhibit 1, this packet, be marked and admitted into evidence, subject to your honor's discretion on sealing those pages that I just identified.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. And just to confirm, you identified AGO 016 through 017 and 018 to 020. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Borson, any objection to Exhibit 1 being part of the evidence?
Exhibit 1, no objection.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted. And any objection, Dr. Borson, to sealing or protecting from public disclosure the particular pages that Ms. Trauma identified? I believe, if I heard correctly, they include medical information. Is that right, Ms. Trauma?
Correct, Your Honor. One appears to be a medical report, and the other is a recovery group progress record. It may be appropriate to seal that from public record.
Thank you. Dr. Borson, any objection to sealing those records from a public disclosure?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, that protective order is granted, and the court will issue that after this hearing. Thank you. Any other evidence at this time, Ms. Trauma?
No, Your Honor, it's now petitioner's opportunity.
All right, thank you. Dr. Borson, would you like to speak to me and the committee directly about your case?
Sure.
Okay, so let me swear you in so we can consider what you say testimony. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, yes.
You may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name.
My name's Sheldon Borson Jr., SHELDON BORSON JR.
Thank you. Now, you may testify in what's called a narrative format, so it will not be question and answer, at least for this part. The board and I have a copy of your full petition, including its attachments. So there's no need to repeat exactly what's in there. We have that in front of us. But if there is something you would like to highlight or draw our attention to, this would be the time to do that. Just be advised that after you complete this portion of your testimony, you may receive questions from Ms. Trauma and the board members themselves. Whenever you're ready, Dr. Borson, go ahead.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm thankful for and very grateful for having this opportunity to come before you and talk about my case. I've been a pharmacist for 32 years. I have 3 pharmacists in my family, including my father, uncle, and aunt. 2 children. One's graduated with a recreational therapist license. The other one's graduated med school and is now doing his residency in anesthesia. As this started with the allegations against me, I took them very seriously. And when faced with going into the rehab process of Maximus, I accepted that fully. I did question some of the allegations against me, in which I hired an attorney and was going to present the case in San Diego with the Attorney General, which that case was settled outside of court, or because my judge didn't show up. So really, none of my details were ever heard, or explanation of my behavior and some of the actions that were going on. Through Maximus, I was in Maximus for 6 years, and I learned a great deal about myself, a great deal about the program, about the importance of acceptance and not being able to control situations, really setting boundaries, which was extremely important to me. Through the Maximus program, I was seen by multiple psychiatrists and psychologists, and extensive testing was done in which they determined I didn't have any alcoholic or drug addiction tendencies or behaviors. So they placed me in a newly formatted codependency program, which I completed after 6 years of extensive step study classes, men's groups. I was attending approximately 13 meetings a week throughout this time, off and on. Through that time as well, I was raising my kids, as my ex-wife was in and out of rehab for alcoholism. So I took that burden upon me, which I accepted that and stepped up, and lucky to have very successful children and what they've become now. After getting out of Maximus, I've been working as a pharmacist now approximately 7 years, full time, and have incurred through this program. I was taken out of work for 3 years. The Maximus program was very costly. It's in the packet. I've incurred up to about $500,000 or $600,000 in losses. I filed for bankruptcy, sold my house. We really overcome many challenges, in which looking back, I wouldn't change anything. It's really made me a better person, and I'm very grateful for it. The allegations at Costco, there's some explanations there as far as the narcotic prescriptions. The doctor that was prescribing these for me did not have a valid DEA license. I was not aware of that. I would have never filled any of these prescriptions as if I was aware of it. Unfortunately, it was reported by an employee that I had caught diverting 6,000 tablets of Norco and had him terminated, and it was in revenge that he reported this. I found later that Costco did settle with the state board for $11 million because their software was not compliant with identifying improper DEA licenses, which I was fully trying to explain this at the time. In regards to also filling narcotics excessively for the patient KB, I was in touch with Dr. Ahmed multiple times, in which the investigator came to the conclusion that I wasn't. She had faxed the doctor. He never returned the fax, and there was no further investigation to identify my actions. I'm here before the board asking for forgiveness for the remainder of the money that's owed. And also, I'm still currently drug testing. I've been drug testing now for 14 years. Every day I call in. I've never failed a drug test. It's been one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And I think I've proven that I'm not a drug addict or an alcoholic. And I'm asking for the drug testing to stop as well. That still costs me money every month. I've drug tested approximately 500 times over the last 14 years, in which that's cost me $50,000, in which I feel like that money could have been repaid to the board in that time, which money's still owed. But it's placed me in a real financial difficulty over the years, and still above and beyond that, I'm grateful for having the kids that I have and where we've come. And I'm thankful that I have a job working as a pharmacist, and I have had no issues over the last 7 years whatsoever with my licensing and my behavior at work, and put myself here before you and thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Trauma, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Borson, you talked a little bit about some of the violations and what occurred at Costco. You didn't say anything about what occurred at Albertsons. Were you diverting drugs at Albertsons?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I had a mail order system in which I had a Rolodex of credit cards. Many people, the wealthy people that live there in the desert, have second homes across the country, in which they would call me and ask me to mail their maintenance medications. I would pull a credit card out of the Rolodex. I'd have a technician run it. She would staple it, we'd fill it and place the bag at the end of the pharmacy. I would tell my pharmacist, hey, I'm gonna go mail this prescription, I'll be back. I took it upon me to grab the bag, and it appeared not paid for because it was a credit card. And I would leave the pharmacy and go mail the prescriptions. And in another couple situations there, they see me leaving the pharmacy with a couple boxes. I took supplies to another Save-On pharmacy, vials and labels. Since we were the busiest pharmacy within the valley, we always had an abundance of supplies. My case in San Diego, I had witnesses that could verify all this. I had 6 witnesses, and I actually paid for Dr. Ahmed. It was a $3,000 fee to have him come to San Diego to testify about the filling of excessive narcotics at Costco for KB, in which none of this was ever heard because the judge didn't show up, and the presiding judge said that he was going to recommend that the board come to an agreement with my attorney based on how well organized we were. And my attorney said I could continue to fight it, but he felt like we won the case because my license was not going to be revoked. I had no idea that it was going to last another 9 or 10 years. And it was going to be a considerable amount of money to continue that. So I accepted that, okay, I will accept what the board gives me at that point. And here we are, really 14 years later.
Are you the same person that you were all those years ago when you first started probation?
Absolutely not.
What has changed?
Through the program, it's really helped me establish boundaries and how to say no and feel good about saying no, and really acceptance of situations that I can't control. And it's made me a better person. I've learned to turn things over through the program, become attending church a lot more. I turn things over and know that it's out of my hands. But as being a pharmacist, I am not, there's a lot of recklessness that went on during that time, which made me look extremely guilty, and I understand that.
Do you accept any responsibility for any of the conduct that is outlined in the accusation?
Absolutely, yes. I was very reckless, and my behavior was ridiculously unprofessional based on my actions and what I was doing. But bottom line is, as far as me taking drugs or diverting drugs, no. And as far as using drugs, as in Costco with the Provigil, no. I fully thought that this doctor had a license. He was a medical doctor, and I didn't know he didn't have a DEA number that was appropriate. And at the time, Costco, normally when we type prescriptions, if a DEA license is not valid, it kicks it out, and we're aware of it. But like I said, after I left Costco and was in the Maximus program, I discovered there was a case that was settled for approximately $11 million based on their poor software.
No, thank you for that. Your probation, it would have terminated in 2022 had you been paid all your costs. Is that right?
Yes, and what else hindered that was my community service. Community service was very difficult to find in the desert and moving back up here to Riverside. To find a nonprofit in the medical field is hard. And I applied to many places, and some places I was rejected because I was on probation with the board and they wouldn't take me. So it was really a tough situation of you're in this constant go around of how to better yourself and provide a solution to get, to fulfill the requirements, and you're being met with resistance. The community service I did procure was with a visionary group that had only clinics on 1 or 2 Saturdays a month. And when I went back to work, I worked most Saturdays. And so it was very difficult to even work the clinics when I was trying to work at the same time. And it took an extensive amount of time. And COVID didn't help. For 2 or 3 years, they didn't have clinics. So I wasn't able to do any community service at that point. My schedule did change last year, in which I finally stepped up, and I think I completed about 150 hours in 12 months when I had the opportunity.
And you've completed the community service requirement, correct?
Yes, I have.
Yes. And now the only thing that's hindering you from having your probation terminated was the outstanding costs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you are working full-time, you said?
Yes, I've been working full-time since 2000, and I think 16 or 17 at Beeman's Pharmacy.
And what kind of pharmacy is that?
It's a retail setting. In fact, I've worked in 2 pharmacies. One's an outpatient pharmacy within St. Bernardine's Hospital, and then there's a medical building we work in as a retail pharmacy. And I have worked in both places at times.
And what were the time periods that you worked at the outpatient pharmacy?
I'm still there. Of the time periods, as far as years or hours or which?
Yeah, in terms of years, when did you start and are you still working there?
I believe I started there around 2015 when my son graduated from high school. We moved back out of the desert, and I was working there without pay for approximately 8 months because he didn't have a paid position for me. So I was in there trying to fulfill my hours to fulfill my obligation with the probation. And finally, a position opened up and he took me on. I've known Bob for 33 years, and he reviewed my case and said, you know, Shell, I know your character. We went to school together. He goes, I have no issue hiring you on based even on what is in the reports. And I'm very thankful and grateful for that because it's turned my life around in that aspect. And which I've performed as best my ability to do a good job for him, as always, in both pharmacies and taking care of patients and watching staff and the duties of a pharmacist.
Okay, so I'm sorry, you lost me there. Is Bob the owner of 2 pharmacies, an outpatient and a retail?
That's correct.
I understand. Okay. And you started working at both of these establishments in or around 2015?
I think that's the time, yes.
Okay, and you've been working, and you're still working there?
Full time, yes.
Got it.
Throughout the whole, approximately 9 years, I've been there full time.
Got it. So you've been working this whole time. Can you explain to the board why you haven't been able to pay off the costs associated with your probation?
I've been making payments of $300 a month for the last 3 or 4 years. I think 4 years now. Prior to that, I was removed out of work. Like I said, I filed for bankruptcy. I lost everything I had gained as being a pharmacist for the first 20 years of my life and had nothing left over. We really didn't even have a place to live. I was able to live at one of my grandfather's houses. But I still am in debt and I'm trying. I got my son, helped him getting through medical school. He had a baseball scholarship. He got accepted into UC Riverside's med school. I've helped him with that. He's graduated about 6 months ago, like I stated, and he's doing his residency. But the amount of debt and still trying to catch up with expenses, and the expenses I've incurred, like the $50,000 I paid in drug testing. I'm just asking the board to forgive the remaining balance that I've tried to do and pay back.
So what I'm hearing is that you've had a lot of expenses associated with probation that have made it difficult for you to pay off your costs. Is that a correct understanding?
It's been very tough, very hard, yes.
Got it. And you've been testing the last 11 years?
Actually, the testing started in 2011. With the Albertsons case, they had me admit into Maximus in 2011, and I was drug testing and entered the Maximus program, which lasted 6 years. And after the 2 years of being there, they reformulated my accusations, in which my license was termed revoked at that point. So really, it started all over after the 2 years, and the 9 years began in 2013. But I've been drug testing continuously. Even as of today, I wake up every day and I call and I check in every morning.
And how often are you testing now?
Approximately 2 to 3 times a month, I think.
And approximately how much does that cost every time you have to test?
$100.
Got it.
And I've tested approximately 450 to 500 times. So it's 45 to 50,000 it's cost me over the last 10, 12, 13 years.
Now, some might say that, it was your conduct that resulted in these costs, and so you should be responsible for paying them off. What, if any, sort of response would you have to that?
I agree with that. An argument to that was, in the Maximus program, I tested extensively with psychiatrists and psychologists, in which my determination was there's no drug addiction or alcoholic qualities or tendencies, in which they didn't place me in AA or NA. I went into a codependency program. So really drugs weren't, and again, it appeared And I fully accept what was going on and what was reported. It appeared like I was diverting drugs and taking drugs, and I understand that. But truthfully, in actuality, there was no drug usage or anything going on, and I feel like the drug testing really shouldn't have happened over this long a time.
If the board agrees to reduce your outstanding costs to zero and terminate probation, how, if at all, will that change your current circumstances?
It would allow me to pay off the debts that I have to my relatives. The debt, credit card, my life will become easier. The bottom line is clearing my license as well. My license has been, on probationary status the whole time, and that's important. I would like to stop the drug testing, and it inhibits me from doing family activities. I can't leave the state unless I give them a 30-day notice. I'm not able to travel. My daughter got married in Iceland, and I was lucky enough they gave me permission to go to Iceland for her wedding. But my life would be greatly improved as far as helping my son and his costs of schooling and getting back on my feet, really.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. Let me check now with the board. I'll start with Mr. Newell again. Mr. Newell, any questions?
Yeah, Dr. Borson, I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate your willingness to put yourself out here and, kind of bear it all in front of everybody. It takes a lot. And the fact you've cooperated as much as you have and drug testing since 2011, a huge cost to yourself. I definitely see how that can be a burden, especially if you tested negatively the entire time. I have a couple of questions around sort of what you got from the Maximus program, but more along the lines of one of the things that Ms. Trauma asked you was about your responsibilities to the initial Albertsons allegations and things of that nature. And it sounded like you basically said, I take full responsibility. And then later on, when talking about the Maximus program, when asked what you learned, you mentioned that you were being reckless. Can you tell me what do you mean by you were being reckless if you hadn't done anything with regard to at least the Albertson situations?
Well, the recklessness comes with if you read that, I was out of the pharmacy at times for 60 minutes to 90 minutes at a time without punching out off the clock. When I would mail a prescription, I would run other errands. Like I said, my ex-wife was in rehab. I had regained 100% custody of my children, in which at that time I would have to I would make the excuse to leave the pharmacy, take care of the mail ordering, and then run and pick up my son from school, take him to his aftercare, and kind of balancing what goes on in life with a family. And reflecting back on it, I really think I should have taken a leave of absence for at least a month or two because of all the craziness that was going on with the attorneys. I was going through a divorce at that time. I met people in the parking lot. They were relatives, and I was exchanging books and bags with my kids. I had relatives that were help watching them because I was on my own doing this. And the accusation, which I'm fully guilty of, is I went into the pharmacy and procured 20 tablets of Subutex for my fiance at the time, which I know was illegal. She had been prescribed the medication. She was in a rehab setting. She ran out of her medication. I shouldn't have went in there. I should have taken her and put her in the car and taken her to an emergency room, reflecting back. That's on me, and I understand that. But me, as I guess I've learned as being a codependent, trying to take care of people and better the situation, I went back to the pharmacy, got her enough medication to get her by, and I was going to call the doctor and get a prescription to cover that in the future. Should not have done that. And that's my total recklessness that I was referring to.
Okay. No more questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. O, any questions?
I do. Thank you, Dr. Borson. Thanks for coming. So, not to sound too personal, I apologize, but I do kind of need to just wrap my head around your financial situation, understanding that and discounting all the costs that you have accumulated. Can you just tell me your current financial situation? Like, what is your rent? What is your approximate income? And what is your monthly expenses? And what is your debt?
My rent runs $3,000 a month. My debt is approximately $30,000 in credit cards. I owe relatives. I'm in debt to relatives, and I'm trying to repay loans back that covered my costs as I was out of work. And I had my son who was attending private school at the time, and I incurred all that debt. There's car payments, there's various things of that nature. My income is not up to par as pharmacy standards because of my situation, in which I hope that grows from there. And I look forward to, as I get out of probation, that I have better opportunity.
Okay. I'm confident that you are very appreciative of the your colleague and the owner who has retained you as an employment. But if your probation is terminated, are you planning to work at different jobs?
With the opportunity that he's given me, he's helped turn my life around. When I was on early probation when I graduated Maximus, you're able to basically go back and try to find work. And finding work with being on probation with the board is almost impossible. With any chain, you will not clear human resources. I've had, being a manager through Save-On for years and Costco, I had friends that were district managers in the trade, and they said they couldn't do anything. And I'm grateful to Bob, and I don't see myself leaving him. I think he trusts me with the job I do there, and he understands that I'm there to do the best job that I can.
And you have no substance abuse issues for yourself?
I never have. No.
Okay. And this termination really is for financial purposes. That's my
That,
understanding, right?
yeah, that and the drug testing that I'm still continuously doing.
Okay. And your total debt is approximately how much, if you can estimate?
Say 50
I'm
to 60.
sorry for okay. Okay. $50,000 to $60,000.
I think that's a good estimate, rough estimate. Yeah.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Dr. Sandhu, any questions?
Yeah, just to follow up. Most of the questions been asked. So again, Dr. Morrison, thank you for coming. I know that you've done 11 years, 11 years, since 2011. That's a long time. Question I had was, I don't need to know your income, or I just was curious as to, since this is you asking for relief, financial relief, how much short you are a month in terms of like your debt obligation versus your income?
How much short am I?
Yeah, like at the end of the month,
I'm making ends meet. The board, I had been paying $100 a month for numerous years, and the board approached me and said, we'd like to see you increase it, in which through an evaluation and review of what I was making and what I was paying back, I increased it from 100 to 300 a month.
Mhm.
And that's where I'm at now. And I'm basically getting by. I'm not doing extensively great, but yes, I'm getting by.
Okay. So by having the relief from paying $300 to the board every month, that would allow you to increase the payments to your I assume the other debt obligations, is that where we're going?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I filed for bankruptcy back in 2016
Mm-hmm.
because of the situation I was in, and that took care of a lot at that point. But from where I was going forward from there, it's been very tough to make it at times. Very challenging, and it's tested me as a person to step up and really handle situations with the kids and family and work and my recovery. That's most important, to be here and do a good job and be able to serve the public safely without any questions of my reckless behavior that appears that I'm doing something wrong. I would never jeopardize that again.
That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Dr. Serpa, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. I think you answered the questions about your current employment, where you stated you have a pretty stable employment for the last 7 years, and that you want to stay with the obligation that you have with that employer. Are you interested in maybe getting a second job or getting additional employment to help you speed up your financial recovery? Is that one of the reasons not having this on your record would assist you in your income?
Definitely, with your record not being clear, like I stated, it's almost impossible to find work, to even consider a second job to try to supplement the income. And this would open up doors for really, as I had an opportunity to do community service finally, and I knocked it out within 8 months, 150 hours when I was able to do it. And I look forward to trying to get back to work and getting caught up with my life at this stage.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, and good luck in the future.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Dr. Tebow, any questions?
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Dr. Borson, for being here. So I'm following along that you were in Maximus, but they put you on like a codependency track. This is kind of a new concept to me, so please bear with me. So I understand that you yourself were maybe not an addict, but you had a very close relationship with someone who was. As such, are you yourself sober, and do you have a sobriety date, or is that not something that you do in that kind of a tract?
That's a good question. As far as sobriety goes with substances, 100% sober. I would consider a sobriety date as far as when I went into the program for codependency. At the time I entered, they had never seen a situation like mine. Usually they deal with an addict that's taking drugs, that tests dirty, or an alcoholic that has DUIs and that sort of case. After I went through their extensive testing, they said, well, we want you to go to an inpatient rehab for codependency, in which one didn't exist at the time, even in whole state of California, and they were going to send me to Tucson. I explained to them that my ex-wife was in rehab, and I was really the one to be there for my kids and their schooling and activities, and how important it was to be there and continue this, because I didn't want their life disrupted. And they formulated a separate program for codependency for me, in which from there I went into the reporting, the meetings, extensive research that they required from me, writing papers. And like I said, it really enlightened me on some of the illnesses that I had, as far as, why I went back to the pharmacy to take care of my wife when I shouldn't have done that.
Great. Thank you for explaining. I just had one question about a specific point in your letter. You were talking about the costs incurred during the Maximus program. I'm going to read you a line, and I just want you to explain one part of it. I just wasn't following it.
Okay.
It says, Additionally, the costs that accrued during my time in the Maximus program are as follows. The provocation of ability to work as a pharmacist, $450,000. That was the piece. I was just wondering if you could explain that piece a little bit further to me.
Maximus didn't allow me to work. They took me out of work. And I
Got it. And
asked,
for
you know,
what period of time?
2013 to approximately, or 2000, well, I entered in 2011, like I said, and I didn't work from 2011 till about 2015 as a pharmacist whatsoever. And I petitioned many times, and it was very frustrating because, as you can see, the medical reports there came from addiction specialists and the Maximus counselors, and they all stated that, you know, Sheldon has shown these behaviors and he deserves a chance to go back to work. And they kind of went on deaf ears within the Maximus program, and they was told that you're not ready to go, you're not ready to go. And I accepted it. I said, okay, I'll keep plugging along. I know my time's going to come, and I just stay the course. And I turned things over to God. I knew I was in His hands, and it would turn around eventually.
I understand. Thank you so much, Dr. Borson. I appreciate your time here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Borson, is there any other documentary evidence that you would like the board to have, or any other witnesses you'd like to call at this time?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to ask you, Dr. Borson and Ms. Trauma, whether the matter is submitted in just a moment, but first let me explain what that means so you know what I'm asking you. When I ask whether the matter is submitted, what I'm asking is, do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to present your case and bring the evidence to support your position and to make the arguments? Actually, I'm so sorry. I'm kind of jumping the gun. I missed closing arguments. Let's go back to that. You'll have one more last opportunity to tell the board what you would like to see as an outcome of this case. Now, let me start with Ms. Trauma, and then I will turn to you, Dr. Borson, for the last word. Ms. Trauma.
Yes, no doubt the underlying accusation was egregious and it warranted a substantial period of probation. And we can all agree that petitioner has been on probation for a substantial period of time. In fact, much longer than the 9 years that the settlement agreement thought necessary to impose. And he's been compliant with the terms and conditions of his probation and testing for over a decade. And the only reason for his continued probation at this time is those outstanding costs. The costs are substantial, but that is because there were multiple solid investigations against petitioner. Of the nearly $50,000 that was ordered, he has paid almost half, has a remaining balance of $26,038.60. Now, it's within the board's jurisdiction to reduce those costs or even waive the remaining balance so that his probation can finally terminate. It's also within the board's jurisdiction to terminate the testing requirement so that he can use those costs towards his cost recovery. I leave that determination to the judgment of the board, but people don't take a position on this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Borson, any last remarks you'd like to give to the board?
I would just like to thank everyone for giving me this opportunity to finally come and discuss my case. It's been inside of me for, as I can say, 14 years now. And to finally openly discuss this feels great. And I'm not afraid to talk about it. And look forward to fulfilling my dedication of being a pharmacist throughout the remaining years of my life and doing a good job at it.
Thank you. Now, let me turn back to the matter being submitted. And as I was explaining, Dr. Borson, when I ask that question, I'm asking, do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to present your case to the board and bring the evidence that supports your case and to make your best argument to the board as to what it should do about your case? Does that explanation make sense?
Yes, you've given me ample opportunity and I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And just to confirm, is the matter submitted, Dr. Borson?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Trauma?
Matter submitted.
Thank you. The matter being submitted, the record is closed. The board will convene in closed session to discuss this matter. So Dr. Borson, you will not get your decision today, but it will be issued in a few months from today. All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. With that, we are off the record in this matter.
Okay, thank you so much. I think it's time for our 15-minute break. So if we can all return at 11:25. And if during that time we can get the next petitioner set up and ready to go, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. All right, everyone, it's 10:25. If we can all please come back. I'll give everyone a second to get logged on. All right, I'm going to start with a roll call vote. Jay Newell.
Present.
Thank you. Sung Oh.
Here.
Satinder Sandhu.
Present.
Maria Serpa.
Here.
Thank you. And I'm Nicole Tebow. We have a quorum. Back to you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, I see Mr. Vu has joined us. Good morning, Mr. Vu.
Good morning.
And just to confirm, you don't have an attorney for this hearing?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you are aware that you could have retained one at your own expense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you for confirming that. Let's go on the record. We are on the record before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Luc Duval Vu. The agency case number is 6796, and the OAH case number is 2024-120338. Today is December 18th, 2024. The time is 11:26 a.m. This is the date and time set for the hearing in this matter, and we are appearing by video conference. My name is Patrice Huber. I'm the Administrative Law Judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I am sitting with the quorum of this committee. At this time, I'll take appearances of the parties, starting with Ms. Trauma.
Good morning, Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you. And Dr. Vu, would you please introduce yourself now that we're on the record?
Hi, I'm Luc Vu.
Thank you. And before I call the case into the record, we confirmed, Dr. Vu, that you are representing yourself today and you are aware that you could have retained an attorney for this hearing. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, thank you. So in a hearing like this, where it's a petition, the party who is asking for the thing has the burden to prove that he or she is entitled to whatever that thing is that he or she is asking for. In this case, this is your petition, Dr. Vu, so you have the burden to prove that. And ordinarily, in a court proceeding, the party or person with the burden goes first in presenting the evidence. However, in this case, I think I'm going to ask Ms. Trauma to present first, and that is just so the board and I can receive background information and the context for what has happened with your license so far that has brought you now to this point where you are petitioning the board. Does that make sense, Dr. Vu?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Trauma, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation. The underlying accusation alleged petitioner committed acts of unprofessional conduct in that he acted as a pharmacist in charge at 10 pharmacies without registration. And by 10 pharmacies, that is the name of the pharmacy. It's not 10 separate pharmacies. That he dispensed unauthorized prescriptions and allowed prescriptions to be dispensed without an employee's approval. Now, petitioner's wife was the owner and pharmacist in charge of 10 pharmacy. Petitioner Vu was the owner and pharmacist in charge at another pharmacy, Drug Depot. The circumstances that led to the discipline are that in February of 2020, the board received a complaint from a former employee of 10 Pharmacy alleging that petitioner was acting as the pharmacist in charge when he primarily managed the pharmacy and his wife was never present. It was determined by 2 investigations that petitioner was acting as the pharmacist in charge at 10 Pharmacy by managing, training, and operating the pharmacy without being registered as the PIC. Petitioner also dispensed and oversaw the dispensing of compounded prescriptions without conducting routine testing to ensure integrity, potency, quality, and label strength. In June of 2020, the board received a complaint from another former employee of Petitioner's Pharmacy Drug Depot who alleged that she was terminated after reporting several of her prescriptions were billed to her insurance by the pharmacy without her permission. She alleged that Petitioner used her past prescriptions and committed billing fraud, and she continued to receive unwanted prescriptions from the pharmacy after her termination. During the course of an investigation, it was determined that Petitioner, while acting as the pharmacist in charge for Drug Depot, dispensed prescriptions not approved or requested by the former employee and allowed prescriptions to be dispensed without that former employee's approval. Effective January 5th, 2022, Petitioner's pharmacist license was revoked, revocation was stayed, and it was placed on probation for 5 years, subject to the terms and conditions of the decision. To date, Petitioner has been compliant with quarterly reporting to the board. He's been paying some of the costs of the $25,000 or so costs that was owed. His remaining balance is $6,110.96. He's been compliant with payments for probation monitoring. He's been completing the remedial education requirements. He did complete the ethics course, and he has been compliant with not owning or managing a licensed premises. With regard to the work requirement, Petitioner is required to be employed as a pharmacist in California for a minimum of 80 hours a month. His probation was told from October 2023 to March of 2024, 6 months, due to not being able to meet that minimum work requirement. He has now filed a petition for early termination of probation, and included with his petition were 5 letters of recommendation. All 5 of those letters were verified by board staff. He submitted continuing education certificates, and there's also a personal statement from him to the board. Exhibit 1 is the petition packet, and it includes all the documents that were attached to his packet, as well as the notice of hearing, the license history certification, the memorandum to the board, and the underlying decision in order. The board members and petitioner have been provided with a copy of Exhibit 1, and that packet has also been filed with the Office of Administrative Hearings. The packet is Bates labeled AGO 001 through AGO 72, and I'm going to be requesting that that be marked and admitted as Exhibit 1.
Dr. Vu, any objection to Exhibit 1 being part of the evidence in your case?
No objection.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, early this morning, we received an additional continuing education document. We've Bates labeled it AGO 73 through 75. That was uploaded to the Office of Administrative Hearings this morning as Exhibit 2. And I believe board staff have also submitted it to the committee members this morning. So I'm going to be requesting that that be marked as Exhibit 2 and admitted into evidence.
It is so marked. Dr. Vu, any objection to Exhibit 2 being part of the evidence in this case?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 2 is admitted.
Thank you. It's now petitioner's opportunity to address the board.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Vu, did you want to speak to me and the committee directly about your case?
Yes, I do.
Okay, let me swear you in so we can consider what you say as testimony. Thank you for raising your hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I swear, Your Honor.
You may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name.
My name is Luke Vu, Lukevu.
Thank you. Now, the board and I have a copy of your petition and your supporting documents and your additional document of the continuing education. So that's all in front of us. There's no need to repeat specifically anything that's included in those documents, except for what you would like to highlight at this time. So whenever you're ready, Dr. Vu, go ahead.
Okay. I would like to thank you guys so much for listening to and give me a chance to speak about this. I feel that since the accusations have been filed and I've went through all the remediations and what I have done to become a better pharmacist, to basically be a better version of me. I kind of lost that along the way through the many years of practice and opening a pharmacy, the stress of being a pharmacy owner and doing things to keep the lights on was very stressful and very through the years gave me a very cloudy judgment on things along the way, which led to the accusations. But since then, in the beginning, of course, I had a moment of like, why is this happening to me, and what is going on with my life? But then through the years, as I progressed and I've accepted what has happened and I've accepted what has happened to me, and do feel that it actually was a good thing that happened. It brought me back to my core values of what really life is about. A year after my probation, one of my best friend jumped off a building and committed suicide. And I was the person who had to identify him, and that really crushed me and made me realize that how short life is, and how he was very young, someone that's so young and happy, smiling all the time, was completely drained about life. And that gave me a realization that life is not all about money. It's not about um, financial support. Is about being happy. And through these times, I've been focusing my energy. I was reading the script, and one of the key factor that made me thought was education is key. So since then, I've been doing a lot of education, thinking about what I can do to be a better pharmacist in life and how I can contribute back to society. And I've been doing a lot of live CEs, learning about different aspects of pharmacy. I think have about 100 live, CEs, and really just spending a lot of time be educating myself. My goal really is to get my license back into a proper standing, because obviously we all know that financially is very destructive for anybody, and that's pretty clear across. But that's not the main reason. Is I want to be able to integrate back into society. I want to get a job. I was looking at all the different aspects, such as I do want to go back, and getting a law degree looks really cool, interesting in my opinion. Going back, maybe getting into residency and further my education, and even I was even thinking of possibly one day applying to be a board pharmacy inspector, because I do have a lot of knowledge now of what to do or not to do. So my whole goal is to go back and really um, be an educator, and really to be able to help others do what because I've seen what you cannot do, things like that, and learn a lot from that, and will be a key role in education is my main goal. And that is be able, even if I went back to law school, to be able to support myself to go through that. Right now is a little hard because all my work right now is all volunteer work, and being a volunteer, you can't really pay anything, can't do anything, and I'm clearly past financial aid status a long time ago, or any sort of grants. So to further my education, to do things, I need to be able to work and to be able to support myself to get to those goals. And that's why I'm here today, is to ask to show you guys that, and answer any questions for you to understand that I am 100% has been a changed person, and my focus in life has completely changed. I do not want to be a PIC. I do not want to own my own pharmacy. And I rather just be more of an educator at this point in my life.
Thank you. Ms. Trauma, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Dr. Fu, in your own words, why are you on probation?
For excessive filling of prescriptions, not looking at understanding the full laws of compounding and testing procedures and products,
And
and the PIC situation.
why were you managing your wife's pharmacy?
Oh, because she was sick at that time. She was going through some situations with her mental health, and we also had a miscarriage, and that really took a toll on her. So I kind of stepped in and started training in all different aspects, looking at all different things, and I really didn't think anything of it because we were, because I knew everything that needs to be done at her side of the pharmacy.
And at that time, were you also the pharmacist in charge at your pharmacy, Drug
Yes,
Depot?
yes, correct.
And so how were you able to be a pharmacist in charge at both of these pharmacies then?
Well, that's why we have staff members when we have another pharmacist working, and they're fully trained, so that way it leaves me time to, okay, cool, you guys are good, anything you need, I'm going to the other store and see what's going on over there and see what they need.
Okay.
And the distance between them were not very far, so it did not take long to go back and forth.
Okay. The accusation has allegations about like fraudulent schemes. What, if any, role did you play in any of these schemes?
Can you clarify the word scheme and fraudulent, like what you're referring to exactly?
Okay, let me rephrase my question. You've talked about taking personal responsibility in your statement. What exactly do you take responsibility for?
I take responsibility for anything that happened within the pharmacy aspect, whether I was there or not, because I was the PIC. It is my full responsibility for anything that has happened in terms of, let's say, a staff member's fill a prescription that was not validated, was not verified. If I was not there, I was not really watching everything, and maybe my training was off in terms of what to do or not to do. My documentation was not properly done correctly. I think looking back, documentation is probably the most important thing in terms of any sort of, was this requested, was this not, and training properly was extremely important as well.
The accusation describes an email that you sent to an employee regarding a prescription template for high profit margin prescriptions for medications. What kind of explanation, or why was that sent?
The email to employee, because of getting prescriptions? Are you referring to that template? I'm just want to clarify.
Yeah, the accusation describes how you sent an email to an employee about a prescription template for high profit margin prescriptions.
Yes.
I just want to know why you said that.
Yeah, that employee is a sales rep, and her job is to give me ideas, and because running a pharmacy as an independent, I think is difficult because it's definitely profit driven. Because you have to keep the lights on. Because certain prescriptions didn't reimburse, or you would lose money. So as an independent pharmacist, to keep the lights on, you want to be able to find prescriptions that are profitable and not are operating at a loss. And that is a problem with owning your own pharmacy, which is not something I want to do anymore.
Did you and your wife sell your respective pharmacies?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Did you and your wife sell your pharmacies?
We just shut them down. We did not sell them.
When did you shut down Drug Depot?
Whenever the discipline said that by the date, that's when we shut everything down.
Got it. And you described doing some volunteer work since being on probation. What sort of work have you been doing?
I'm currently doing all the volunteers I have right now are all the work volunteers. As a pharmacist, I'm working at an independent pharmacy as a staff pharmacist doing volunteer work. as well as community work for the community in terms of helping homeless people and orphanages. And those are side things I'm doing.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I'm currently at a regular retail pharmacy, putting in the hours that is required from the Board of Pharmacy.
and that's the volunteer position.
Yes, correct, ma'am.
Okay. Has it been difficult to find paid work?
Definitely, of course. Being on the other side as a pharmacy owner myself, when I had disciplined pharmacists with disciplinary actions, we would never hire them because of all the issues. Now I'm on that side of it, and I do see that as well. And yes, I have applied to many places. I've even worked at temp places to get work. And like, for example, I would drive to Palm Springs, which is like 2.5 hours, 3 hours away, just to do an 8-hour shift. And I was happy to take that, but it really took a toll on you just to get out there. And in the end, after gas and everything, it wasn't much after that. And it was even that was hard to find work. That was seldom as well.
The independent pharmacy that you're doing volunteer work right now with, is that in your area, or do you have to
No,
drive significant
I have to travel. If I'm there at 9 o'clock, I have to leave at 6 in the morning to drive there.
So, where do you live versus where is the pharmacy?
I live in Orange County, and the pharmacy I'm volunteering at is in Santa Monica.
And you indicated you've been consistently applying for jobs in your area?
Well, anywhere. And then, yeah, I'm definitely signed up, and I'm willing and ready and available if anybody's looking for a pharmacist. But of course, I also have my commitment with the volunteer pharmacy, and that's important because if I can't fulfill that, I'm going to lose out in terms of not being able to fulfill any hours. So if somebody calls me and I'm already having committed to that, I have to stick with my commitment, even though I'm not getting paid.
And that's because your probationary requirements require you to have a minimum of 80 hours.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If your work hours under probation were reduced from, say, like 80 to 40, would that make it easier for you to meet your probationary work requirements?
Of course, definitely. And that would give me a little more flexibility in terms of what needs to be done. But and knowing that even getting the volunteer position was very difficult. A lot of people don't even want you as a volunteer, even if you have all this experience. So being rejected for that. So I understand that it takes a lot for any pharmacist in charge to be able to take somebody on, knowing that the second you take this person on, that pharmacy is going to be inundated with inspections as well, because the Board of Pharmacy does show up a little more because you're there.
Okay.
And a lot of pharmacies don't want to take that other pharmacy owners don't want to take that responsibility on.
Okay. So from what I'm hearing is that you want to terminate probation so that you can find full-time work in your area?
And really to be able to go back to school and then be able to work and support myself so I can go back to school.
Okay.
Because now I have no means of going back to school or get my residency or do anything because it's hard to even survive. So, and I cannot get loans right now because I've already passed I have a PharmD, so I passed everything in terms of any sort of financial loan help.
So what about the probationary term right now is keeping you from seeking the educational opportunities that you're hoping to get?
Because I'm not able to support myself to get to the educational level. To be out of school, I need to be able to at least get a part-time job, some sort of job to pay for the schooling and to be able to eat so I can take classes as a student again. So it's really tough.
And you've been on probation for almost 3 years?
Yes.
how, if at all, has the probationary program made you a better pharmacist?
It has changed me to become a better pharmacist. It showed me what the reason why I became a pharmacist was to help people. And it brought me back down to earth and go, you know what? It's not about profits. It's not about money. It's about what I can do to be a better person. And life is short. And, you know, you know, you know, if my best friend can die and commit suicide, even though we never knew, he was so happy. It just shows that life around is very short. And I want to be able to fulfill life and be happy and not really it's not about money. That's why being a pharmacy owner is a terrible thing for me, because it's not something that, that I will die happy. I want to be able to die happy. I want to be able to, sorry. I want to be able to, for my kids to be proud that, however long I have left, be able to contribute back to society and be able to tell people that, and educate people on how to become a better person. Where teaching students, teaching my peers, what things not to do, and really get people to understand life is not about money and profits.
What assurances can you provide to the board that you're not going to have similar violations in the future?
I'm more than happy to sign something that I would not be a PIC. I do not or own my pharmacy. I have no care for that. I just want to be able to get back on the road and be able to contribute back to society. I've learned a lot, and I've even taken all my CEs, just learning and educating. That's all I've been doing. Because I have a lot of time now to get that going, and I do whatever resources I can.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Newell, any questions?
Yeah, just a couple really quickly. One, thank you, Dr. Vu, for being candid and trying to work this out. And we understand that it is a hardship going through any of this stuff. Appreciate your cooperation. When Attorney Trauma asked you about excessive filling of scripts, you responded by saying staff fraudulently were filling scripts. Did you also fraudulently fulfill prescriptions?
I yes, I did, because we did autofills. So some of them we did not really talk. The autofills was a big problem. So we basically put a lot of people on autofill and just fill the prescription, which is not something that should be done.
Okay, so I'm a public member, so I don't know as much about how autofills work, and maybe they can fill me in later. So, but is that to say that you were not knowledgeable that it was fraudulent when it was happening? It happened because of the autofill, or is there,
It's because when I was growing up with pharmacy, I grew up with autofills. I worked for the chains, and it was very common practice to, when I was at CVS, put everybody on autofill. And as the law changed, I did not change along with it and kept the same, kept what I know. And the law did change in terms of you can't autofill, you can't do this, you need all these things to make sure that patient did want these prescriptions.
Okay. And were you unable, or was the information not made available to you through CEUs that was something that had changed?
It was available, but due to the fact of being a pharmacy owner and driven by profits and and be able to keep your lights on, I made huge mistakes of overlooking that, and that's completely my fault. That's why being a pharmacy owner is a pretty terrible thing to do.
Okay. Yeah, and I definitely got that you learned something about being quote unquote driven by profit, and when speaking about talking to a rep about how to get the email about how to get higher profit margins. Is that something that, again, you knowingly were doing that because that was just the dilemma that you had financially, or this is something you felt like kind of just happened? Let me
Because
tell you the reason I'm asking. The reason I'm asking is because a couple of times during your comments, you said this happened to me. And that's what was kind of a trigger for me to ask these questions, because it's one thing to say I did these things and here are consequences and
oh
I'm
no,
dealing with
no,
these
it didn't
consequences.
happen to me. I made the decision in terms of uh because uh, as an independent pharmacy, you don't have the volume that you would have at a big chain, where
Absolutely.
you can do thousands of prescriptions at a certain uh, lower dollar amount, and you can do well. We are very limited in terms of like, okay, you don't have any walk-ins, so instead of filling a prescription for a blood pressure medication that you would lose $1 or make 20 cents,
Hmm.
I have sales rep, okay, these drugs have a better profit margin. Can you find these for me? Do you have doctors that have patients that have these? Because then we would, overall, because then we'd be able to keep the lights on. Does it make
I
sense?
understand. Yeah,
Yeah,
I understand. I
yeah.
understand.
And that wasn't because that it came upon me. It was because I was asking my rep, hey, do you know what are good medications that would have better reimbursement?
I get it. I get it. Okay, that was all my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. O, any questions?
Just confirming your work history, Dr.
Yes.
Where do you work?
Yes. I work for TriTech Pharmacy in Santa Monica.
And do you work there full time?
20 hours a week.
Okay. And I see you were told a little bit, and were you working somewhere before you got this job?
Yeah, I worked at many places in terms of I did uh Arts Relief as well. I did other volunteer places, so pretty much anywhere that was willing to take me.
Okay. I do see you still have a balance remaining. I'm not saying that your petition may or may not be granted, but if it were to be granted, are you okay paying that $6,000?
Yes, I will get a loan to take care of that. My sister said she's willing to help me to take care of that.
Okay. And just in your own words, during your probation, what was I think, the lessons you learned in quick summary? Just, I know you had your opening statement, but can you just elaborate one of the key things that you really learned from your probation?
The number one thing I learned is life is not about profits. Um, Life is more than just about that. It's about helping people. It's about being there for people and getting other people to understand that some things are probably not the best course of action if you're going into opening a pharmacy for certain reasons. And the, and it's about life is short and about helping people. And that is where I would like to be in my life right now, is to be able to, for my kids to be proud and to be able to see that and to be able to go be proud of me, you know. And being a pharmacy owner is a very um it's a very dark time of some people's lives because they're at a point where, well, I have this to pay, I have this to pay. How can I pay that? And that's where a lot of pharmacy owners will overlook rules, regulations, and everything just so they can keep it going. Versus if you work for like a big chain or a hospital, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to worry about patient care. And that's where I would like to be.
Would you consider working for a big chain?
Yeah, I'm open to anywhere where I can contribute back to society, in terms of educating. I think I would prefer to be in a hospital because that's more a more of a teaching situation. A big chain is a little bit less driven for that, and I don't think a big chain will really fulfill my roles in life.
Okay.
Big chains are really, in the end, honestly, is still about profits, and that's not where I want to be.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Appreciate your time. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Sandhu.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. Thank you for coming in and opening up. I know this is hard. I just have a few questions. Most have been asked. You said that a lot of this happened because you learned practice of autofill and your practice of autofill. So you're saying that you knew that patients didn't ask for it, and you went ahead and put them anyway and filled the prescriptions. And what is your understanding of the current law of what do you feel like you did wrong?
Well, what should have been happened was I should have had consent from the customer, and proper consent. It would probably written consent would probably be the best, and it should not be for a prolonged period of time. That you would need to renew that with them with proper consent.
Okay. Thank you. And then also, you mentioned that you were helping your wife while she was having some medical issues. Is the reason that you didn't? So that pharmacy, Ten's pharmacy, did not have a PIC?
She was the PIC for that, and since I already knew everything that needs to be done, it was very easy for me to go over then and train and help and fulfill that role.
But do you understand the PIC regulations now, how they work, or what is the response? Because the reason I'm asking is that if you work in a pharmacy today, you will maybe working under PIC. It's very important that you understand, even though you may not want to be PIC, understand the role of the PIC so that you know what their responsibilities are. What do you learned in that process? Like, what do you learn that you didn't know before?
About being a PIC? Could you
about
rephrase the
PIC
question?
or pharmacy not having a PIC.
Well, yeah, of course. When there's when there's no PIC, that needs to be reported to the board of pharmacy for whatever reason that PIC is not be able to fulfill their role.
Okay, well, let's see in the situation where your pharmacy couldn't, your wife couldn't fulfill the role of the PIC. Did you have any other options for making it right, like do it correctly?
Well, it's just that because I already knew how everything works, and to me, in my mind at that time, I wasn't thinking that I'm the PIC. In my mind was, I know what's going on. Let me help this get going and get the training and get people going. It wasn't because I didn't really think of it like, because we're a married couple. So I didn't come in there thinking like, okay, you're the PIC, I'm not the PIC. It's very fluid, kind of like if you and your wife had a photo studio. She's the manager. You know what you do. All right, I know what you do. I'm gonna help you real quick. But you don't think that there's the role change that needs to be done because you're two people as one and you're fluid. And from here knowing everything about what's going on, you can pick it up in an instant.
Got it. Thank you. That's all the questions I have, Miran.
Thank you. Dr. Serpa, any questions?
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you. And Dr. Thibault, any questions?
Yes, I wanted to clarify something. Quite a few times in your testimony today, you spoke about, not chasing a profit, things like that. But in reference to your pharmacy, you also talked about keeping the lights on. So can you clarify for us, were your pharmacies profitable? Were you doing these actions to just keep things, that you were clearing enough money to keep things open, or were you actually making like a better profit for doing them?
Well, there's some months where it was a loss, and there's because the problem with this model was things on coverages kids change a lot. So let's say you find an over-the-counter medication that would do well, and then 3 months later they stop coverage, and then thus our reps have to go find another drug that is equivalent to that that would be profitable. So it was very difficult in terms of trying to stay afloat.
Got it. And this is slightly adjacent to our topic at hand, but it's just so relevant to what's going on right now. We're seeing a lot of pharmacies close, including the big chains. And obviously, you having gone through this situation yourself, how do you think the pharmacy industry as a whole is contributing, one, to pharmacies closing, but two, the reimbursements contributed to what happened to you? If you were fairly reimbursed, would you have had these things happen?
No, if we were fairly reimbursed, it would be a whole different landscape, you know. And because there's so much, let's just say that anytime that we had a good covered medication, we would get a letter from the insurance company say, "Hey, this is no longer covered. Now that medication needs to be sent over to us," and then so we would lose that. So in my opinion, anything that was somewhat profitable or good was sent back to the insurance company to fulfill at their mail order pharmacy. And anything that they did not want to fill or was a loss was sent to our pharmacy. And there was never an issue with filling those. So in terms of that, I think the future of independent pharmacies is pretty grim, because there's a lot of a situation with profits and where do the profits go, and that's is not a good place for future pharmacy owners as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your thoughts on that. No further questions.
All right, thank you. And let me just confirm, Dr. Vu, do you have any other witnesses you'd like to call or any additional evidence you'd like to present?
No, I don't.
All right, thank you. So now that takes us to closing argument. I'm going to turn to Ms. Trauma first, and then you're going to have the last word, Dr. Vu. Ms. Trauma, go ahead. I see your lips moving, but I don't hear you. I'm not sure if anybody else can.
Apologize, I was muted.
There you are.
Petitioner's been on probation for almost 3 of the 5 years that were ordered. It is clear from his testimony that it's been difficult to find paid work. He's also testified he wants to terminate probation in order to pursue educational opportunities. While the board can sympathize with petitioner's challenges in finding work and his desire to pursue further education, ultimately the board must do what is best for public protection. So the question the board must consider is whether petitioner has demonstrated rehabilitation sufficient to show he no longer needs to be monitored in order to safely practice as a pharmacist. In this case, it may be appropriate to reduce the work requirement from 80 hours to 40 hours, which will allow the board to continue to monitor his practice, give him the ability to pay the remainder of the costs, and give him some flexibility in meeting that work requirement, allow him to find some paid work that doesn't conflict with that volunteer commitment. At this point, the people don't have a position, though, on this petition. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dr. Vu, the last word, go ahead and tell this committee what you would like to see in this petition.
What I would like to see is to be able to, I'm toward the end of my probationary period. I'm at 2 more years left, and to be able to remove my restrictions so I can work as a normal pharmacist and apply for, it's not just jobs. I would like to, get back, apply for law school, things like that, and not have to explain that I have this giant red flag on me, and be able so they can look at me as a whole and not look at me with an explanation of why I want to do this. Because when you have a red flag on you, still you're on probation, less people would even look at my application in terms of if I want to go back for residency or anything at all. And it's not just about getting the job, it's about trying to fulfill my educational goals. And I'm not able to, do that with a big mark on myself that anything I do, because I want to be able to say I'm a proud pharmacist, my license is in good standing. And yes, there's something in the past, but that has been in the past. And I won't be able to move on with the past not being able, with a probation or restriction on there. And that's going to be the difficult part of it as well. And again, I thank you for listening to my what I have to say, and have I changed 100 and 300%? I have changed. I'm a completely different person than I was before, and I thank the board for stepping in to stop me from going down that road. And look, and I'm actually much happier now, not having a pharmacy, not having all these responsibilities, and seeing that what life can bring for me. And I'm very excited to be able to do the next chapter of my life and to be able to be there and to really educate, the future pharmacists of America.
Thank you, Dr. Vu. So in just a moment, I'm going to ask you and Ms. Trauma whether the matter is submitted, but let me first explain what it means because it's a term of art, and so you know what I'm asking you. When I ask whether the matter is submitted, what I'm asking is, do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to present the evidence that's helpful to you in this petition that you're bringing before the board? And do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to make all of the best arguments you can make on your own behalf? Does that explanation make sense to you, Dr. Vu?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so let me ask the question now. Is the matter submitted?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. And Ms. Trauma?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. With the matter being submitted, the record is closed, and the board will convene later in a closed session, Dr. Vu, to discuss your petition, and you will receive the board's final decision on the matter at some point in a few months. All right?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All
Thank
right,
you, board
thank you.
members.
With that, we are off the record in this matter. Back to Madam Chair.
Thank you. It is 12:11, so board members, how do you feel about going to lunch now? Is this a good time?
Sounds good.
All right. I'm going to ask that we come back right at 1 o'clock. We need to do at least 45 minutes, but I don't think, is everyone okay with that if we don't do a full hour? We'll just be
Sure.
back at 1. I'm seeing nodding. Okay, so we'll be back at 1 o'clock. And if we can please just make sure the next person is ready before we start, that would be appreciated. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's 1 p.m. So if we can all come back, I'll give the board members a second to get back on camera.
This is the moderator and the recording is continuing.
Thank you so much. I think everyone's here, so I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Jay Newell. Thank you. Sung Oh.
Here.
Satinder Sandhu. Maria Serpa.
Here.
And I am here, Nicole Tebow. We have a quorum. Back to you, Judge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. All right, I see Ms. Trauma, and I also see Dr. Nguyen. Dr. Nguyen, let me just confirm, you don't have an attorney for this proceeding?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Okay, and you are aware that you could have retained one at your own expense?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you for confirming. All right, so let me call the case. We are on the record before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Sun Pharmacy and Lu Fong Nguyen. The agency case number is 6998 and the OAH case number is 2024-120337. Today is December 18th, 2024. The time is 1:01 p.m. This is the date and time set for the hearing in this matter, and we are appearing by video conference. My name is Patrice Huber. I'm the Administrative Law Judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I am sitting here with a quorum of the board's committee. At this time, I'll take appearances of the parties, starting with Ms. Trauma.
Good afternoon, Deputy Attorney General Nicole Trauma, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California under Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Trauma. And Dr. Nguyen, I know we had informal introduction just a moment ago, but now that we're on the record, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Lu Fong Nguyen. I'm a pharmacist. I have practiced in the pharmacy for 19 years.
Thank you. And Dr. Nguyen, just to confirm again, now that we're on the record, you are aware that you could have retained an attorney for this hearing, but you are choosing to represent yourself. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me explain how today will go. This is your petition, which means that you have the burden to prove that you should get what you are asking for. And ordinarily, the person or the party with that burden is the the person or the party who presents the evidence first. So ordinarily, you would be presenting the evidence first. However, in this case, I'm going to ask Ms. Trauma to present first, and that is so I and the committee can get a background and context for your licensure so far and what has brought you now to this point where you are filing this petition. Does that explanation make sense, Dr. Nguyen?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Trauma for her presentation.
Thank you. We're here today on a petition for early termination of probation against a pharmacy and pharmacist. The underlying accusation against petitioners Sun Pharmacy and pharmacist Nguyen alleged that petitioners failed to obtain a waiver for off-site storage, failed to initiate a quality assurance record after being informed of a prescription error, failed to maintain compounding policies and procedures, had misbranded drugs in the current inventory that were unlabeled and had no lot number or expiration date, deviated from a prescription order by dispensing an incorrect quantity of insulin and then on a refill failed to get authorization from the prescriber prior to changing the insulin prescription, failed to complete a self-assessment within 30 days of the issuance of a new permit, failed to reverse 42 billed claims, submitted claims for incorrect day supplies and provided a quantity different from the billed quantity for a patient, failed to keep records of acquisition for numerous outdated drug samples in the pharmacy, failed to report a change in beneficial ownership, and failed to preserve records of acquisition and disposition for 3 years. Lastly, petitioner Nguyen, while employed at a CVS, took prescription drugs from CVS stores without returning the products. These were not controlled substances. Effective September 8th, 2021, the pharmacy permit and the pharmacist license were revoked, the revocations were stayed, and the licenses were placed on probation for 5 years. Petitioner Sun Pharmacy has been compliant with quarterly reporting. They've paid towards the $30,650 in costs. There is a remaining balance due of $5,740. They have been compliant with payment of probation monitoring costs and compliant with notifying employees involved in the pharmacy operations, ensuring that they're made aware of the terms and conditions. They also provided the required signed and dated statements from owners stating that they're read and familiar with state and federal laws and regulations. As to pharmacist Nguyen, she has been compliant with quarterly reporting, payment of costs, as I just described, payment of probation monitoring costs. She completed an ethics course and supervision of practice requirements. Petitioners have now filed petitions for early termination of probation, and included in the petition are 5 letters of recommendation, and all 5 were verified by board staff. She also submitted, submitted continuing education certificates as well as a personal statement to the board. Exhibit 1 is the petition packet. It includes all of the documents I just described, as well as the notice of hearing, the license history certification, the memorandum to the board, and the underlying decision and order. The board members and petitioners have been provided with the same set of documents, and that redacted petition packet has been filed with OAH. The entire packet is Bates labeled AGO 001 through AGO 79, and at this time we request that that be marked as Exhibit 1 and admitted into evidence.
It is so marked. Dr. Nguyen, any objection to Exhibit 1 as described by Ms. Trauma to be part of the evidence in this case?
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's now petitioner's opportunity.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Nguyen, Ms. Trauma has completed her presentation of the evidence. It is now your turn. Did you want to speak to me and the committee directly to explain your petition?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so let me swear you in so we can consider what you say as testimony. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. Please state and spell your full name.
Lu Phong Nguyen, LUUPHUONG, NGUYEN.
Thank you. Dr. Nguyen, we have a copy of your petition, including your supporting documents. And so there's no need to repeat everything that you've included in that packet, but this is the time for you to highlight anything you'd like us to know, to underline any specific information that you think we should know, and be prepared to receive some questions after that. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Thank you. As you all see that I'm a little bit nervous, so I will take a look at my notes and read back to you. Okay. So, Your Honor, DAG Trauma and honorable member of the board, I appreciate for the opportunity to appear before you today. I'm here to respectfully request the early termination of my probation, which were imposed as a part of the disciplinary action taken by the board on September 8, 2021. I acknowledge the circumstance that led to my probation and take full responsibility for my action. Since the commencement of my probation, I have made significant strides in both of my professional and personal life. I have fully complied with all the terms and conditions set forth by the board and have implemented critical improvements in my pharmacy operation. Especially, I have updated our record keeping system to ensure that all the records are preserved for the required duration and are readily available for inspection. Additionally, I established a quality assurance program to enhance our workflow and address dispensing error promptly. I have also put in place procedures to track insurance claims, reversal, and conduct quarterly self-assessment to ensure compliance with both state and federal pharmacy laws. Furthermore, our inventory undergo a thorough audit, and we have implemented robust procedure for labeling and tracking on the drug, include lot number and expiration date. However, the current term of my probation are hindering my ability to fully practice and serve my community. During the COVID-19 pandemic, my pharmacy administered more than 21,000 vaccinations and was invited to participate in the California Vaccine Children Program, which provides free vaccine to eligible children. Unfortunately, our enrollment in the program was put on hold due to my probation status. My pharmacy is located in an underserved, low-income neighborhood where many residents lack health insurance. While I have provided free vaccine to the community over the past few years, the rising cost of vaccine made it increasingly difficult for my small pharmacy to continue offer this service without state support. A reduction in my probation period would allow me to rejoin the Vaccine for Children program, receive vaccine at no cost from the state, and administer them free for those in need. This would not only enable me to continue to provide essential healthcare service, but also help me make a greater lasting impact on my community. I believe that my action through my probation period has demonstrated a clear, ongoing commitment to uphold the highest standard of ethical and professional conduct as a pharmacist. I believe the time I have spent on probation, combined with my effort to rehabilitate and improve myself, have allowed me to make meaningful progress. I respectfully submit that I am now in a position to safely and effectively return to full professional practice with no risk to patient safety or integrity of the profession. Thank you for your consideration and on my request. I am happy to answer any question or provide further documentation regarding my compliance and progress.
Thank you. Ms. Trauma, any questions?
Yes. Dr. Nguyen, you own Sun Pharmacy, correct?
Yes, correct.
How long have you owned it?
It's 8 years. I started to open it in 2016.
Okay. And prior to Sun Pharmacy, have you owned a pharmacy before?
No, not at all.
Okay. Prior to Sun Pharmacy, well, strike that. You were the pharmacist in charge at Sun Pharmacy, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Prior to Sun Pharmacy, had you been a pharmacist in charge before?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Where were you a pharmacist in charge before that?
I was pharmacist in charge with Long Drugs, and then when Long Drugs took over by CVS, I was pharmacist in charge with CVS at that time.
Okay. Have you ever been a pharmacist in charge at an independent pharmacy other than Sun Pharmacy?
No, not at all.
Okay. Would you say it's different being a pharmacist in charge at a large major retail chain versus an independent?
Yes, it is very different.
And in what way?
For like independent pharmacy, you have to know all the law, all the requirement up to date to the law, and example like all the like procedure and policy had to be in the packet for reviewing when it need. In the mid chain, we don't have that in the pharmacy. Usually, most of the time, they have it at the corporate department. We only have what it is called self-assessment in the binder.
Okay, so I think what I'm understanding is in a big chain pharmacy, you have corporate that is providing you with policies and procedures and setting a lot of the standards and documentation for the pharmacist in charge.
Yes, that's correct. And on the independent, you have to provide on your own on everything.
Got it. Do you think you were ready to manage a pharmacy when you started Sun Pharmacy?
At that time, yes, I think I was ready. But when the inspector come to inspector on my pharmacy, I realized that there are a lot of things that I'm not up to date with the law.
Okay.
So I acknowledge that. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I saw in the accusation was a lot of operational issues, like not having policies and procedures, not having the waiver, not having records. Can you explain why your pharmacy had those violations?
So regarding the upside waiver, we a small store, so at that time we have a lot of box and like prescription box that we already done for the patient, and we had to move it upside in order to have the emergency exit open. So it regarding the safety, and along the way that we remove it upside, I also apply for the upside waiver. But when the inspector come, I realized that we had to do it beforehand instead of like moving it and apply it at the same time. So that one of the things that we got that. And regarding the self-assessment, the pharmacy is not open until June 2016, and I applied for the license with the board, and we got the license approval in April of 2016. And at that time, the pharmacy not have been it's still under construction, and we still doesn't have like hot water or cold water or anything in play yet. So I thought that it will be, makes sense if I do it at the time that we have everything complete, in order to do the self-assessment. Because like if I do it in April, there will be nothing except my signature and, like just the paperwork and my signature. So that's why I do it on the day that we complete the on the construction, and I put it in the binder with the signature and date on that. But when the inspector comes, he say that is not correct. You have to do it on the day that you get the license and within 30 days.
So a lot of the violations in the accusation were around, like I said, operational issues. How, if at all, have operations changed since you went on probation?
So I had update, a lot of procedure and policy in the binder. So when the inspector come, anybody request it, we can have it accessible right away. And the offsite waiver, we have the waiver put in the binder too from the board. And the self-assessment right now would require with the probation, we have to do it every quarter. But we also have the procedure and policy that we had to do it within 30 days if anything change in ownership or in 30 days in change ownership, BIC, or any change in the pharmacy. So we had to report to the board right away. And also beside that, when we communicate with the board, we had to make sure that we do FedEx tracking signature in order to make sure that it come to the board on time.
Do you feel that you've addressed all the issues that were outlined in the accusation and fixed all of those issues in your pharmacy?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Yes.
And you mentioned that your pharmacy has been inspected by a board inspector since being placed on probation?
Yes, I do.
And how often have you been inspected?
Every quarter, the inspector will come, unannounced visit to us. And when it comes to the pharmacy, she will go through on the process to see if we complied with on the term that the board have been accused on us. And also, she also guide some of the, like new law that we didn't aware or we have been updated, but we don't understand well. So I asked a question about it. She will explain it to us, so we can do it correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has the board inspector brought any major issues of non-compliance to your attention during any of those inspections?
Not that I know of.
Okay. And you mentioned that you will sometimes talk to the board inspector and have them explain the application of certain new laws or new regulations. If you're not on probation, how are you going to accomplish that task?
I think on the board website, they have asked the inspector. I will email about that, like to ask the question when I see a new law that I don't understand. I will ask him about that to get the answer.
Okay. Are there any other resources that you use to educate yourself?
I read script. I read some of the law that usually when we do the wholesaler meeting, they usually have people who do some of the C core to do law. And I am the member of APHBA, so I can always add a question on that, on the people who can guide me through, and also the California Pharmacist Association too. I also add the question.
Okay.
Sometimes I went to the meeting with them in order, to exchange their knowledge with other pharmacists.
Okay. And you'll continue to do those types of things if you're released from probation?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now, you want to terminate probation on your pharmacy to open up an opportunity to join a vaccination program. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, yes. Because of vaccine program that we joined during the COVID time, it's from the federal with the county together, but now they have ended. In order to get the vaccine, with no cost, it had to be from either the federal side. So you have to enroll into the VFC, VFA, that means the vaccine for children or vaccine for adults, in order to get the vaccine. and then we can provide free administration to the adult or children in our community.
Okay, and is the pharmacy not allowed to join that because they're on probation?
Yes, I have the letter from the VFC that they deny it.
Okay, and then why do you want to terminate probation on your pharmacist license?
The reason I want to termination on my pharmacist license because we also do some of the before that we do what's it called, the preceptor for one of the pharmacy school, and we love to do that to go back to that if we become like I become like free from the probation, so I can easily to teach them, because like that I know a lot of core in the pharmacy now, they still not teaching enough on how to do the billing insurance question. So I think that we in our pharmacy we know a lot about insurance, and so we can advise, give the patient give the student the education about it, and so they can have more adaptation into the after they graduate. So that's why I want to make my probation early on that in order to be able to educate the student.
Okay. Now, what assurances can you provide the board that you're not going to have these similar violations in the future?
I will go ahead and constantly update with the law. I have been learned how to organize a record for easy accessing when board inspector come, and I have been learned from the ethics core that it's good to help people, but we need to have to follow the law correctly. And I also apply all the probation term that I have to apply. I have been applying doing it every day. So it's like a normal working, like, every day now on my habit, make it a habit that I have to do it. Like when we see the error dispensing, we have to address it right away. We don't delay it any day, anything like before. So it make a habit already. So now I think that it's good to be off the probation, full professional practice.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Thank you. Now let me turn to the board. Mr. Newell, any questions?
Yeah, just a couple. Thank you for sharing experience. Thank you for going through the process of trying to get better or do better. I saw the 52 false bills over 3 years. Were those, do you consider those oversights, and were those done by yourself or by someone who you were supervising?
For the 42 prescription that not returned on time, it's were by my staff doing it, but now we have implement when we see the prescription that not returned on time, so we have returned it right away, and we also have implement the process and procedure that every week we had to do the return to stock, like return everything to the insurance company on time. And also quarterly, I also do spot check on the return to see whether the prescription have returned on time or not. And I have to point out who, like responsibility of the technician or the clerk who doing it to make sure they do it correctly.
So am I correct in the belief that those are all taking products that were supposed to be returned but were not returned? Is all the same thing?
No, actually, the prescription were filled and put it on the shelf waiting for the patient to pick up, but they didn't pick it up. And we supposed to take it down within 14 days and to return it to the insurance company. So that means we're not billing the insurance company for the prescription.
Okay.
But if we leave it too long onto the shelf, that's not correct.
And it was that same procedure for all of them, correct?
Yes, we had to do that. Yeah.
Okay, and you're saying now you have a way to mitigate that, and that'll be
Yes,
better.
yes. So we had to do it every week, weekly, and also spot check quarterly.
Okay. There was no actual procedure I'm not picking on that one incident, but in general, there was no actual procedure preceding what you learned in the classes. Like when you first came into having your own pharmacy, you did not create a procedure, you were unaware of one, or you created one and no one followed it and you didn't check up.
Yeah, we could create one. No one follow up on that. I didn't follow up on that. So that I acknowledge that my mistake on that. So that's why I try to correct and to do it quarterly to make sure, they
Okay.
do it correctly. Yeah.
And then the incorrect quantities of insulin. Just again, I'm the only non-pharmacist I think here today. Maybe there was another one, but what happens if someone is given the incorrect quantity of insulin?
Oh, the quantity incorrect is just because in the packet of insulin, so you have like 5 pen in there, like example of the Lantus for this case, you have 5 pens in there. And when at 5 pen, each pen is 3 milliliter in there. So when you do the billing, you have to do it like 15 ml instead of only 3 ml for 5 pen. If you dispense 5 pens. So that's how one of my staff, when he do the billing, he didn't calculate correctly, and when I verify, I didn't check it correctly. So I give the patient only 1 pen instead of 5 pen that we billing.
Okay,
so we make the correction right away. Yeah.
So you're saying you under
given the patient, yes.
Yeah, couldn't think of the
Yeah.
word. Okay.
Yes. So the
Okay.
patient will not have enough for that to the whole month. So we make the correction right away. Yes.
Okay, and there was a failure to report a change. Was that an ownership?
Yes, it is an ownership.
What happened there?
So that means beginning my pharmacy was sold prior, and after that we changed to INC, and that means we had to report to the board within 30 days. So we send the paperwork, but somehow it will get lost. So we have to resend it again with the FedEx and the signature on it. So this time it's come to the board pharmacy, but it's late. So that's why.
Did you still have interest in the newer pharmacy that it was sold to, or was it you had nothing to do with it after that point?
I have nothing to do it at that point. What? I'm sorry. What's your question again?
You're saying that you sold the pharmacy, correct?
No, I didn't.
There was a change in ownership, correct?
No, when you call you from priority like sole owner and you become the INC, it's called like you sold the pharmacy, but I'm not. I'm still the owner of that.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm asking.
It just changed the entity from.
Okay, that was what I was asking. Thank you.
Dr. O, any questions?
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. So just a couple questions. So first about your pharmacy. So this is a pharmacy that the incident has occurred, is a pharmacy that you currently still own and you're still the PIC?
No, I'm not the PIC. I have not the PIC on board with us. Her name is Tan Le, and I'm only the full-time pharmacist right now, but I still own the pharmacy.
Okay. And how many prescriptions do you fill about a day?
About 200 a day.
Okay. And do you have how many employees?
We have 2 clerks and 1 technician and at least 2 pharmacists.
Okay. And do you do compounding?
No, we don't do any compounding at all.
Okay. And can you just tell me what happened at CVS with the
Yeah.
the medications that are missing?
Yes. Okay. So when I opened the store, one of the doctors sent in the patient that she asking for help because the patient doesn't have the medication for about 3 months already. So the doctor doesn't know what's wrong with her insurance. So she asking me to help. So I spent like 4 hours with the insurance company to figure out the problem with the patient insurance. So after it approved, everything approved, we try to fill the prescription for the patient, but the patient have allergy with several medication that C1 surgeon manufacture. And I try to call around for the surgeon manufacturer that the patient need. So I find out what one of the CVS store have the medication. And so I call up the medication, the pharmacist on duty and asking her to retain those medication for my patient. And I asked my patient if they want to pick it up over there so I can transfer the one that with the NDC that she want over there. But my patient, like, she kind of old and she doesn't speak English well. So she asking me to help her with that. Without any talk, I will went to CVS and asking the staff pharmacist over there to let me borrow the medication that the patient need, and I will return the next day when we try to order from our wholesaler with the same manufacturer. And so I did that, and I have text the pharmacist on duty to return that to her, and we have been doing it for the patient at that time. And the CVS find out about that, so they say that I can just go ahead and return the medication by paying. They will take up the money from my last paycheck for that instead of return the medication.
I don't think I'm understanding why did they deem that to be a theft when you possibly have stocked those back? Right? Can you just try to? I'm not understanding that part.
Yeah, I never hear CVS that told me that they definitely me at a tap at all. They just asking me to return the medication back to, in monetary medication, pay instead of return the medication.
But was it replenished?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Were the medications you took, were they replenished? I guess I'm not understanding.
I don't know if CVS refurnished, but the first time I borrowed it, I gave it back to the pharmacist on duty, and she took it from she take it to go back onto the shelf, because we return it.
Okay. Do you currently, what is your supervision level?
What do you mean by that? So is that?
I believe your probation term requires you to be supervised.
Yes, at least my PIC working 3 to 4 days a week, so I'm with her at least 50%.
So is it daily supervision?
I'm sorry?
Your probation monitor, I believe, should tell you what supervision level you're set at. Do you know your supervision?
50%, yes.
It's still 50%.
Yeah.
50.
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Sandhu, any questions?
Yes, I have some questions, actually quite a few here. So going back to what Dr. O was asking, I just wanted to understand the CVS incident. So I understood that you borrowed the medication to dispense it to your patient because she was having difficulty speaking, and then CVS found out that you had taken the medication. Instead of returning, they asked you to pay for the medication instead. Is that what are you saying?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then the violation was that you didn't have the records of acquiring those medication from CVS in form of invoice, NDC numbers, lot numbers, all that information. Is that correct?
I do have the information in writing that I gave it to the pharmacist on duty, and she signed for it. And also, but she didn't do a transfer by paperwork from CVS at that time.
But you didn't do that on your end, so you didn't have a receiving record.
I do have the receiving record.
Okay. So that makes sense.
But in writing instead of in the computer from my computer system at that time.
I see. So you didn't have added to your system.
No, I don't know how to use it at that time. Yes.
Okay. So on the quality issues, so let me I understand it. You didn't fill out the quality assurance report. So now when error happens, if let's see, you're not, who's responsible for actually filling out the quality assurance report when it's brought to attention?
So we all pharmacists on duty will fill the quality assurance report promptly. So if we discover the error, we had to fill it right away, and we had to hold a meeting with the people who make the error. And then we fill the report, and everybody had to sign on it. The signs, yeah.
So I assume that means that when you say right away, that means same day. Is that correct?
Yes, same day. Yes, we try to contact the patient, contact if the patient involved, or we had to fill it within the same day. Yes.
So I was glad to hear that you have a process in place where you check return to stocks. Now let's see that on your quarterly incident, you find the claims. They've been over 14 days, not returned to stock. What is your process for refunding the insurance?
So the insurance usually allow you to do at least 30 days. So I will go ahead and return it right away, and also make an incident report that we didn't return it on time, just in case, anything happened. We did that too. So. And we also try to talk to the person that's supposed to do a return, and they forgot the return. So yeah. Educate them about the 14-day return policy.
So I was very glad to hear when Attorney General Trama asked about the your resources, and you were able to mention asking the inspector and also using the script and attending CPHA organization things to get help. So that I'm glad to hear that you have in place. But as this sort of pertains to like things that came up, but from what I hear, you planning to enroll in a VFC program. And my understanding of the VFC program is that it has a tons of requirements in terms of separate inventory counting, separate refrigeration for refrigerated items, temperature requirements, all those auditing. What kind of training have you had? How do you plan to ensure, this is just a one example. How do you plan to keep up with these changing regulations and changing rules within the VFC program or anything like that?
Yeah, the VFC program, they had the website that they also had the meeting from the state bi-weekly that we have to attend, like on Wednesday, or the county also have the meeting every bi-weekly not bi-weekly, twice a month on Friday. So I usually attend on those to update the new vaccine coming out, new requirement. The meeting from 9 o'clock until 10 or 10:30. So I usually do that. And if you have questions, you can always ask them. And on the requirement, everything will be on the website, easyIZ.com. So it's on the website of the VFC and website. And because we already have followed the COVID-19 pandemic vaccine at that time, so I already did all the requirement with the refrigerator, the temperature, the cushion. We have been training all of that already, and the update will be on the Easy IZ. So every 2 years, so they have the recertification if you approve to get certificate from them. So they had all the requirement that you had to follow.
Thank you so much. Those are all the questions. By the way, thank you for going through and explaining all those. You've done a tremendous amount of work. I appreciate that. You were able to articulate, and good luck. And that's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Dr. Sandhu.
Dr. Serpa, any questions?
Yes, just one quick question, because Dr. Sandhu already asked all the questions about quality assessment, quality program. What in your policy, what is your definition of a medication error that would qualify for documentation? And then I have a follow-up after that.
Yeah. So in our policy, any error that from from the production to typing to to go out to the patient, it's called the error to bill into the insurance. It's called the error that we have to fix it right away to go if it reached to the patient point, that we had to make correction right away. And some of them, it not reach the patient point, like not return to stock on time, anything like that. We should document into, it's called the incident report too. We have to report that too. That how the definition in our store.
Okay, so that if the error is caught during the checking process, is that called an error, or is that just a near miss, or do you keep track of that, or do you only keep track of errors that actually get to the patient?
We keep track of that if it gets to the insurance company, that for a few days that we didn't recall that at all. So if we keep we at the checkpoint, the pharmacist check it right away and realize that it's wrong billing or anything like that, it will fix it and we don't have to do the report.
Okay.
But it gets to the patient point that we have to report right away.
Great. Okay. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your testimony.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sopa.
Thank you. And Dr. Thibault, any questions?
Yes, thank you. Hi, Dr. Nguyen. Thank you for bearing with all our questions today. This is what happens when you have a bunch of pharmacists together in one room. I just wanted to ask about, you talked about wanting to go off probation so that you could be a preceptor. I was wondering, how would you incorporate what happened to you and the lessons you learned for students?
It's a good example for them to, like when they graduate and go to work, they have to constantly update the law, so I have to let them know that. And we was on probation before because of like on the necklace that I have been, thinking that it's okay to do it, so that also educated them about those, and also asking them to constantly update the law on the board website, learn how to organize the record correctly so we don't make a mistake. Like if you become a PIC in one of the big chain, even though you're not responsible for the procedure and policy, but you have to know that you have to do it in your position. And also have to learn that everything is good to help the customer, but we have to follow the law. So.
And do you think that some of your issues were because you were trying to do something for a customer, that you didn't follow a law, that you had good intentions, but yeah. Okay.
Yes, I learned that from ethics course too, like that some of the things that we think that is not violate, but it is violate, so.
Great. No further questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And let me just confirm, Dr. Nguyen, do you have any other witnesses you'd like to call or any additional evidence at this time?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. So now we will move on to closing argument. It's just an opportunity to summarize what we have heard here today, Dr. Nguyen. We're going to start with Ms. Trauma, and then you'll have the last word, Dr. Nguyen. Ms. Trauma, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Petitioners have completed over 3 years of a 5-year term. They've been fully compliant with the terms and conditions of probation. The pharmacy has been inspected and there have been no issues brought by the board inspector. At this time, the people do not have any concerns about these petitions. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Nguyen, this is your chance for any last remarks to the board. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, DAG Charmer, honorable member of the board, thank you for your time and consideration today. I understand the importance of maintaining the integrity of the pharmacy profession and fully acknowledge the circumstance that led to my probation. Since then, I have taken every step to ensure that I meet and exceed the expectations set forth by the board. I have made a meaningful progress in my professional practice and personal growth. I am committed to maintaining the highest ethical and professional standard moving forward. As I have outlined today, I have complied with all the terms of my probation, and the work I have done has not ensured my growth but also directly benefit my patient and community. My pharmacy serves as a vulnerable, underserved population and ability to continue providing service, such as administer free vaccination to children, would make a significant positive impact on public health. While I have made this stride, the current probation term continues to limit my ability to fully serve my community. A reduction or early termination of my probation would enable me to resume my full scope of practice and continue to contribute my meaningful to both the professional and community I serve. I respectfully request the board consideration of my request for early termination of probation, and I believe I have demonstrated my commitment to ethical conduct, professional responsibility, and public service. Thank you very much again for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Nguyen. So in just a moment, I'm going to ask you and Ms. Trauma whether the matter is submitted, but that phrase is a term of art. So let me first explain what it means, and then I will ask you the actual question. So when I ask whether the matter is submitted, what I am asking you is, do you feel that you've had a full opportunity to present the evidence that you have that supports your position and to make the best arguments that you can make to support your position? Does that explanation make sense to you, Dr. Nguyen?
Yes, you do, Order.
Okay, so let me ask you the question now. Is the matter submitted?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Trauma?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. With the matter being submitted, the record is closed, and the board will convene in closed session to discuss your petition, Dr. Nguyen, and you will receive the board's final decision a few months from today. It's not going to be today, all right?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, everyone. With that, we are off the record in this matter, and back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That was our last petition for today, as we had done a continuance. We had agreed to a continuance on the last one earlier. So now we're moving to agenda item 4, which is closed session. I'd like to thank members of the public for your participation today. As indicated on the agenda, the committee will now convene in closed session. Adjournment for the day will immediately follow closed session, and there will be no other items of business discussed.